Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey everybody, it's a three-man ultimate Cleveland sports show. Hello, hello. I've been trying to figure out for the last minute, I've been trying to guess G's middle name. It starts with an E.
Starts with an E.
Edward.
Elvis.
I
Nope.
did all those already.
Ezekiel.
Nope.
Ooh, that's
Elliot.
a good one.
Nope.
I didn't do Elliot.
Irvin.
Nope.
I did Evan. I did
My middle name's Irvin.
Eli.
No.
Earl.
No.
Oh yeah, I didn't even do Earl.
No.
Egregious.
No.
Egregious.
Electrifying.
Garrett Egregious Bush. Literally
That
a
would be good,
hysterical name.
but egregious starts with an A.
I used to always
No,
tell
it
people.
doesn't.
You're
What's
right.
the matter
That's
with
what I
you?
mean.
I told people, I was like, yo, my
Yeah.
nickname is, my middle name is Rumpelstiltskin. You gotta, well, by the way, some of those nursery rhymes were kind of freaky back in the
Oh,
day.
for sure.
Very creepy.
Rumpelstiltskin is like, why do you want that woman's kid?
Yeah, it's creepy.
Like, why would you say, if you don't guess my name, I'm coming back to get your kid in like 12 years?
They're all disturbing.
We put kids to sleep by singing them about a tree breaking and them falling out of a
Right.
tree. And
Oh,
plummeting in their
Or
death.
Hansel and Gretel getting
Yeah.
eaten. And
or like the Rapunzel, like that's
Yeah.
freaky. Your hair
Little
is
Red
that
Riding
long.
Hood is creepy.
Yeah,
It is all.
Yeah.
All right, you're not going to tell us?
You guys put it.
Wait.
I
Is
guessed
it,
Eric.
is it a famous athlete? Are there any famous athletes with this name?
No.
He said it's a somewhat common name, though.
It's a somewhat common name.
How did
Ed?
you miss it?
No, I did Ed.
There's not many E names.
I'm right. I couldn't think any more. Eric. No, I said Eric already.
I still like egregious. Whatever it is, it should be egregious.
Let me know in the chat what you think my
What do you
middle
think
name
his
is.
middle name is? Jason, what's your middle name? Do you want to tell us?
Basil. I was named after my grandfather. It's a
Ebenezer.
family name. Yeah, it's a family name.
So
Basil,
you're
like
like,
B-A-S-I-L?
C. He changed it to C because everyone called him
Basil.
Basil, like the spice.
Right.
So
B-A-C-I-L.
he was Basil Ashworth. So thank God my parents
Wow.
just gave me the Basil
Yeah.
and not the
Elijah.
that is a dope name, Basil Ashworth. That
Basil
sounds
Ashworth.
like that sounds like
That was his first name?
Basil was his first name.
That's badass.
that sounds like a 3-and-D guy coming out of Gonzaga.
Basil Ashworth.
Dope. He's moving up.
What's that?
Nope.
Ethan.
Nope.
Oh, you're coming up with good ones.
Everett.
No.
Emmett.
Man, Mike's coming up. Oh, you just looked up E names. That's right. He's not coming up with these off the top of his head.
Evan.
I
Nope.
said Evan already.
The
G. Bush, you don't tell us till the very end of the show.
Okay.
We're putting the poll.
All right.
Our PCC
Yeah.
answer of the day is whatever the people
Yes.
think is the most popular answer.
What is everybody else's middle name? Go ahead. You guys.
Mine's Irvin. I was named after Michael Irvin, the Cowboys receiver.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Irvin?
I'll show you- well, I'm not
IRVIN.
gonna put my license in the camera right now, but
How
yeah, it
about
really
you,
is.
Steve? What's your middle name?
Douglas. He looks like a Douglas.
Stephen Douglas. Yeah, that's appropriate.
Anthony?
It's an old school name.
My middle name is William.
Earl.
William.
Deontay.
Oh, there you go. There's the ethnic name coming out of here. Let's see.
Deontay.
Wait. Irvin's. Give my parents some credit. Michael Irvin's kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
Pretty ethnic.
I mean, Irvin is like not really.
I know Irvin's the whitest name possible
Yeah.
for an ethnic middle name.
Deontay, like Bull can't be Deontay.
That is my middle name.
Deontay?
Adam
Deontay. No,
Adam.
no. Nah, my middle name, I hate my middle name. It's Howard. Not a fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I would have never guessed that.
Right?
It's crazy, man.
There it is. So
What do you think Jay's middle name is?
David or something.
Yeah, probably.
Definitely like Christopher.
Yeah.
I could see
Yeah, I
definitely
could see Christopher.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like his middle name comes with an inheritance. like you gotta get a middle name at the safety deposit box. Right? And it just goes to show how little money I have that I think your investments and your whole inheritance comes from safety deposit boxes.
Along that same line, we're doing a
my
segment
God.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So Jay's in Arizona, by the way.
Yeah.
He's
Shout
flying
out
to
to him.
Arizona. He'll be with us from spring training.
Yeah.
We taped a segment with Jay that I got his answers to play for us
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay. All right.
When we do it, he gave us an answer yesterday that I looked at Anthony and Arwood after and said,
What?
that's a rich man answer.
Yeah,
I would
right.
never have answered it like that. So
Are we doing true or false also in addition
we're going
to
to do true or false. This segment is a little more serious, but he just gave us an answer that messes around. It was
gotcha.
good. So
Okay.
we're going to do that. We also have Malcolm Jenkins on tomorrow.
Yeah.
First time, going to be a great interview with Malcolm
That's
Jenkins.
right.
So
Aditi
big show
Kinkhabwala
coming.
today. We got Mike Farron, MLB Network Radio, is one of my favorites, making his UCSS debut as well on Friday. So a lot to get to. We'll get to the Cavs in a moment, guys. Exciting win. I was going to say great win, but I guess we'll all have our opinions on that. Exciting win. And later in the show, which Browns player do we expect to have, or are we hoping is most likely to have a breakout season in 23? We'll give you the answers to that. First, it's time for my bet of the day. And I'm on a slump here. Go ahead, Mike.
Bull has lost 3 in a row,
Yeah.
and he's not going to win today because he picked a future bet.
Yep.
But he picked it on Bet Rivers Sportsbook. Hey, Ohio, Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook is the place to be for every single game. Now, right now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. You can get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey to help you win big. Check out BetRivers.com or download the BetRivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
The sports book is great. It's very easy to use, very streamlined. I had the Cavs -6. I didn't think Marcus Smart was going to play either. Obviously, he did. And Jaylen Brown played. Jason Tatum did not play last night. And so I lost because the Cavs did not cover, even though they had that miracle comeback. Tonight, here's my bet. Well, it's not tonight. This is season long. I love this. Stephen Kwan over 155.5 hits.
That's stealing money.
I couldn't believe it was that low.
Yeah.
I feel like that's free money.
It's -110 or -115.
How many do you have last year?
I can't even
More
remember
than
off
that.
the top of my head, but it was more than that. So, I mean, I think Stephen Kwan's got a shot to have 200 hits this year.
I would agree. That's the one player I'm not worried about a sophomore. slump.
0.
Now watch.
Oh,
168 hits last
220
year.
and
Yeah.
in Columbus by May 15th.
168 hits. And he had how many plate appearances?
563 for a 298 batting average.
Yeah, I bet you he has over 600 plate appearances this year. I think he'll, if that number were last year's number, I would have taken the over too. So I don't know. I love that, but we won't know that. We won't know if I'm right till, well, hopefully we'll know by August if he's having a magnificent season.
Well, and he don't even come out the lineup that much.
No.
Hits leadoff.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him out at all. And since their lineup's better, he'll get more plate appearances because they'll turn the
Turn it
lineup
over.
over more often. All right, guys, let's get to the Cavaliers here. Jason, let's start with you. When you look back at last night's game, which was ugly for much of the night, but a great comeback. Obviously, Celtics without Tatum, without
Save
Horford.
me the
Anything?
great comeback
Nothing?
crap. Save me that great comeback
doing it
crap.
for you.
I ain't doing it. That was a no such thing as a terrible win. That was not a good win, though.
Okay.
Like, it's a win. It counts the win column. Put it in the win column. That wasn't a good win. You're playing a Boston team was in double overtime the night before. They're without Tatum and Horford. You should be up 15, not down 15. Like, they're young and they're immature, and eventually they have to stop playing this way. Like, they have to stop digging these holes for themselves.
It's been a consistent thing all year. Even when they were playing consistently better, we saw this a lot.
The Golden State game is the prime example.
Yeah.
Being at home, and they played nobody. They sat everybody.
Right.
And Cavs are embarrassed at home. And last night had that same feel to it. And, Boston just ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. And tech subscribers, because I was texting with you guys all night last night, and I had Joe sitting next to me, Joe Varden sitting next to me at the game. Going into the fourth quarter, I think the Cavs were down 12. And he said, they're going to win. Cavs are going to win this game. Like, Boston has no legs left. And I was down on him. I said, no, I agree that Boston's cooked, but the Cavs just don't have it. And he was right. Like, Boston just totally ran out of gas at the end. Grant Williams, this is funny. Grant Williams, of course, missed the 2 free throws at the end of the game. Donovan's talking trash to him. He got out of there so fast last night, I honestly think he may have been in his jersey sitting on the bus waiting for everybody else. Because the Boston
Like it's high
Riders,
school.
Boston Riders got over to the locker room like,
Yeah.
where's Grant? And they kept waiting. He was gone. He was out of there. So he definitely didn't shower. Definitely did not shower after that game.
Come on. Hey, that's
It's 50-50. He was sitting on the
Allegedly.
bus in his jersey.
That's a party foul. Come on,
There ain't
Grant.
no
You
way
played-
that-
you
there ain't
played
no
over
way.
30 minutes.
Ain't no way that man showered and got out of that locker room that fast.
Do you feel the same way as Jason?
Yeah,
Or you're
yeah.
a little more optimistic? No.
Well, it's not as if I'm down on the Cavs, but I just don't know where this type of mindset comes from, right? You look at it, it looks like Donovan's playing hard. It looks like when you look at it, I think Evan Mobley played pretty well. I just don't know why that mindset would be where at this point, you're a young team. You're trying to fight for what you want to do in the league. You understand that you collapsed a little bit down the stretch last year. You just want to I would expect those guys to say, by all means, we're going to come in this year and we're going to take care of business and we're not going to forget what happened last year. And it just seems like sometimes when they come out, another team has more energy, more fight, more effort. And I'll be honest, without Stevens, they was dead.
Yeah,
because
he
he brought in some energy. He brought in that toughness and the grit.
Yeah.
And he looked like he wanted to play. He looked like he had something on the line a little bit.
Well, and kudos to the Cavs and the referee for icing Grant Williams there on that last free. Do you know that from the time he missed the first basket until he got the ball, not the time he shot, from the time he missed the basket until the time he got the ball was 40 seconds.
Wow.
How does that happen? The Cavs kept moving around. Donovan Mitchell clearly got in his head.
Some of it's gamesmanship. They had a lot of substitutions,
Yeah.
and so that draws out the time. Donovan said, I'm trying to make something out of nothing, just trying to do anything to get in the guy's head. But Donovan also made a huge mistake at the end of the game that nobody's talking about today. Marcus Smart came crashing in on the second miss because Donovan wasn't paying attention to him. If Marcus tips that in, what conversation are we having today?
I
It's
did
a lot
hear
different.
that he admitted that he screwed up.
Yeah. I mean, it was. Well, he's good about that.
Yeah,
like Donovan's going to tell you if he blows it.
Right.
But that's why I'm saying, like, they got lucky. They just escaped with one. And I was talking to him after the game, and I said, like, what do you want to get out of the regular season? And Donovan just said, like, wins. We're just stacking wins. We want home court. Like, we're not running from that. We want home court advantage. And he said something interesting. He said he read where the Boston guys felt like part of the reason they made it to the finals was because of how many home games they had and how many games they had at the Garden last year, and it makes a difference and it helps. But I told him, I said, like, it just feels to me like you just bail them out too often. Like, this is just a young team that looks at Donovan and says, okay, we're going to wait for you to go make a play.
Yep.
And this is too talented of a team for them to play that way.
You know, guys, I agree with most of what you said. You watch this team, and it's like the first half of the year, they were so fun to watch. And I feel like I'm not having fun watching them play anymore.
Part of it is it's 82 games.
I guess that's part of it.
It really is a lot of
And
it.
you're like, okay, it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks till the playoffs start. Let's get there. The thing is, like, we know Boston and Milwaukee and who am I forgetting? Philadelphia to some degree. Like, we know that those are seasoned playoff teams.
Yeah.
We know that they know what it's like to play in the playoffs. The Cavs have no idea. So, like, part of me is like, okay, well, these games don't matter at this point. Like, I know you want home court against the Knicks, even though the Knicks have been great on the road. So it's probably more important to the Cavs than the Knicks. But like, so what? It's the regular season. The playoffs start in a month. But I don't know that the Cavs know how to turn that switch.
They don't.
Right?
They don't. And I said this morning, it kind of like fell into my head. It kind of feels this year's like the Cavs are repeating fourth grade because they didn't get that experience last year.
Right.
So this feels like all the conversations we were having last year about young team, playoff experience, they need that playoff experience. Well, we're having the exact same conversation again because they didn't get it last year. Those playing games are trash. That doesn't count.
Right.
And JB needs the experience. We've said, how many times have we said that on the show? JB needs a playoff series to go through the machinations of what it's like to face the same team over and over and over. So until we get there and until these guys experience it, it's just sort of like Groundhog Day. We're having the same conversations and we're just waiting for the bell to ring in April.
And how interesting is it that, I mean, it looks like it's something weird, unless something weird happens, that they're going to play the Knicks in the first round.
I'm not so sure about that.
What do you
I just think, I mean, yeah, as we sit here today, it looks that way. Philly's got a hard schedule. If you look at like,
you think the Cavs might move ahead of Philly?
the Cavs have the easiest schedule the rest of the way, by far.
Right.
The easiest schedule. Now, the Knicks are also down pretty low in terms of easy schedules, but the Sixers have one of the hardest schedules still ahead. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Okay, but just stay with me for a second.
And real quick, Bull, just to give people context, they're 2.5 games behind the Sixers for third, and a game and a half up on the Knicks for fifth.
Right.
So there is wiggle room, just so people understand.
No, I know that, but if they finish fifth and the Knicks finish fourth, they'd still play the
I'm
Knicks.
just saying, so people, when you explain your scenario, they know exactly how much.
First of all, who was the tiebreaker between the Cavs and the Sixers?
They play again next Wednesday.
What's the season series right now? I don't
at home, I believe.
It's 1-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 1-1. Whoever
Okay, so whoever wins that will have the tiebreaker. So if the Cavs lose that game, they probably don't get the third seed. probably, because they wouldn't have the tiebreaker. But anyway, if they play the Knicks, first of all, it's the team that Donovan Mitchell really wanted to go to. It's his hometown team. And number two, like, it's an interesting matchup of coaches because the Cavs are way more talented than the Knicks. And Tom Thibodeau, and I think you said this the other day, like, he wears out his welcome eventually. But
He's a hell of a coach.
But he's a great coach, and, like, they're playing great basketball right now. I don't know if that's going to translate into the playoffs.
Right.
But, like, Jalen Brunson's playing like a superstar.
He is.
People were saying that was the worst signing of the offseason. It's been a great signing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, for me, even though the Knicks are playing the best basketball of the season right now, it's the best case scenario for the Cavs. Because I feel like if you get Donovan Mitchell in a series with his hometown team, the Knicks
He'll be hyped to play
He'll
there.
be hyped to play. The Knicks have to play over their heads because actually the Cavs are a much better talented team, way more talented team, in my opinion, than what the Knicks are. Julius Randle, I like him. I'm not a believer in Julius Randle if he can be your best player winning multiple series in the playoffs. To me, if they get the Knicks, I expect the Cavs to win that series. And to be truthful, JB has to win a game on the road.
It feels like doesn't it feel like his career, maybe not his career, but his Cavs career is on the line? Because if you lose to the Knicks, I just don't see how they bring him back. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. He's fired if they lose in the first round, but it's certainly a conversation. And it's also like the old adage is, okay, if you're going to fire him, who are you going to go get? Well, there's some pretty high-level NBA head coaches available right now. Frank Vogel's out there. And I said this morning. This isn't just Cleveland having this conversation. There's a lot of teams around the league having this conversation.
Yeah.
Who's our guy? Is Frank better? Frank Vogel's a highly respected NBA coach. Obviously, there's the Ime Udoka conversation out there. So a lot of teams have to have some really hard conversations. Now the Cavs really don't fire people anymore because Dan is removed and it's a completely different ownership structure.
Yeah.
And they don't really fire people. And Kobe and JB have the same agent, and there's a lot. It's a deep-rooted thing. It's not as flippant as, well, we lost in the first round, we have to move on. I do think it's worth having that discussion. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. But, G, you made a good point. Cavs are going to have to win a game on the road. Like, I don't think, as good as they've been at home, they're a young team. I don't see them sweeping home.
Right.
So even if you have home court, you still have to win a game on the road, and going to Madison Square Garden and winning there with that crowd, with this young team, is a big ask.
Especially in the
crowd's going to be
spring.
electric.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Knicks being better on the road than at home? I mean, that's very rare in the NBA.
It's just one of those weird things that every once in a while there's just weird things that happen that you really can't explain. I mean, when the Garden is rolling, that's a phenomenal environment.
It's still a dump, but it's...
Oh, it's a total trash hole. Yeah, they need to knock it down. Problem is, what are you going to do?
You can't do that.
Yeah.
I guess the Knicks could play in Brooklyn for 2 years.
You have to go to Barclays and rebuild on the same site because I just don't know where there's space in New York to build another one. But it's a dump.
Go ahead, Mike. Did you have something?
Well, two things with the Knicks.
Yeah.
They've had some very fortunate scheduling, which doesn't totally play into it, but they haven't had a ton of back-to-backs in Miami like the Cavs are about to do, or in Los Angeles. So their West Coast road trips haven't been as staggered as some of the other teams, which helps. But also, G mentioned Lamar Stevens a little while ago.
Yeah.
And Jason, we talked a little last night. Bull, I haven't talked to you about this. I think Stevens kind of has to be in some way, shape, or form in the playoff rotation because of the intangibles he brings to this team. He was plus 18 in 17 minutes yesterday. He makes the hustle plays. He does the little dirty things. Not a great shooter. And as Jason will tell us in a sec, it might be tough to play him and Okoro together in the same game, not necessarily on the court at the same time.
Right.
But there's something about him, G, that dog factor that I think the rest of the team lacks.
Yeah,
that he brings.
Love it.
I mean, it's not like these other bench guys are doing much anyway. What do you think about how much he should play?
I campaigned for Lamar to be the starter at the three.
Yes.
I said earlier this year, I'd roll with Lamar. Like, you don't need much out of that. And we saw last night the way he extended possessions, especially toward the end of the game, getting huge offensive rebounds. That's all you need from that spot. And the debate Mikey and I were having, I agree. I think Lamar's earned a spot. I'm having like flashbacks to 2018 and watching Jordan Clarkson and Rodney Hood play for the Cavs in the playoffs.
Right.
And they were two black holes out there.
Oh,
You got nothing out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Okoro and really Stevens sort of that same way is offensively. You're not getting – and I don't know teams just blatantly disregard Okoro when he's on the floor. Cavs are playing 4-on-5 offensively. Yeah. It is so hard to play that way in the postseason when the game slows down, when you're in half-court sets, when you're playing 4-on-5. And if you have Lamar out there subbing in for Isaac or whatever, you're pretty much playing 48 minutes 4-on-5. That's a tough way to go. So I think one of those guys is probably going to fall out. I think I would prefer Lamar Stevens over Isaac Okoro.
I totally feel. I love the fact that you said that over Isaac Okoro, because there's one difference to me, Bull. When you look at Isaac Okoro and his demeanor, he's a nice dude. I like him. He's a good kid. But here's the problem. Stevenson has that he looks like he's out there and he has one mindset. Like, no, you're not about to score. I'm going to be in you. I'm about to be, pause. I'm about to be all in your area, all in your space.
Bunk.
Hello, three in a row.
Yeah. And so my thing is, if he hits a couple shots, because when he starts playing defense, it seems like it unlocks his offense. Like, he shot that 3 in the corner, and I thought that was a huge bucket. And I'm like, okay, they left him alone. He's shooting awesome. But I'll tell you what, I like the fact that he has more grit. He's a little bigger. He's a little nastier. And if you play him in the playoffs, I can see him playing. Like, no one guards Giannis.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good point that you both make, because you don't want to play them both, as you said, because it
certainly can't
sucks
play them
for the
both
rest
together.
of the team.
Yeah, you can't play them together, certainly.
That for 48 minutes you don't have to guard it. So if you're only going to play one, what is the case for playing Okoro over Stevens?
If this was flipped and Okoro was undrafted and Lamar was the 5th overall pick, it wouldn't be a discussion.
Yeah. So essentially, the only reason to play him is because he got drafted, which is stupid. Who cares about that now? It's irrelevant.
I mean, Okoro has certainly improved this year. Mm-hmm. He has gotten better.
Right.
And I've been hard on him, so I want to credit him. He is a little bit more confident in his shot now. He got hot for a couple weeks where he was making, and you kind of thought like maybe this is him turning the corner.
Right.
He's never going to be a productive, prodigious scorer. If he could even get to 33, 34%, 35%, I'd say 35% from 3, you'd have a real weapon there as a 3-and-D guy. But I don't think he trusts his shot. Other teams certainly don't fear him.
Right.
So it kind of is what it is. And Lamar, I just think, kind of gives you a little bit more than Okoro does. Same type of player, and I think Lamar gives him more.
You ain't got to run nothing for him, and I like that in the playoffs. In the playoffs, they're gonna leave him open, but you ain't got to run nothing for him. All you tell him to do, hey, we're gonna run the floor, but when you get guys, if you happen to play Middleton, I need you to body him up. If you happen to play a game where you got Tyler Hero, I don't want no open shots.
We got to get past the Knicks first. Right. I mean, but or whoever they end up playing in the first round, But the thing is, okay, so let's say JB goes that way. Let's say Lamar Stevens becomes a starter. Okoro's out when we come to the playoffs. So now we know who our starting 5 is. We know we got Rubio coming off the bench. We know we got LeVert coming off the bench. Who else is playing in the playoffs?
Ricky was terrible last night.
He was?
Oh, yeah.
He was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And he hasn't been the same guy this year.
And Dean Wade has not been good.
Oh,
nope.
Dean Wade
like
is
they
almost
moved on from Kevin Love for Dean Wade.
Yeah.
And Love.
I know he got off to a bad start. I don't know what he's done the last couple of games there. I haven't looked.
Who,
Not
Kevin?
a lot.
Yeah.
Kevin, he's had some big rebound games.
He had one good game. He had one really good
Listen,
game.
I by no means, this is not prime Kevin Love anymore. But I'm just saying Dean's giving him nothing right now. And I would rather have the playoff experience and someone in the locker room with Kevin's acumen over
so
if
you think
you
they
have
made a
to pick.
mistake?
I think it.
Taking him out of the rotation.
Well, no, I'm withholding. See, I understand why they did it because they've seen bad Kevin before, and bad Kevin when he's not playing could be even worse. So I get it, but I do think it was very risky. And I'm not saying it was a mistake yet. I want to see how the rest of this plays out. We're not going to know if it was a mistake until we get to the end.
And again, he's not doing much.
But it was a risk, and Dean Wade has not played well.
I think the guys that they're going to dwindle it down to Ricky Rubio. You're going to get Karis LeVert. You're going to get Jetty. I think those are the 3.
Jason, you hate Jetty. You are the president of the Jetty haters fan club.
I think those are the 3.
True. That's not true.
And you start Stevens, right? So now you got 8.
So is Jetty the 8th? You agree with that too?
I do think he's going to play 8. And it shrinks even tighter the deeper you go.
Danny Green's not in the mix.
Yeah, Danny, I was high on the signing. I want to see if he had anything left. The fact he couldn't get on the floor tells me the Cavs have come to the conclusion he didn't have anything left. He can't move. I would like to see Lamar as the 3. I don't think he's going to be the 3. I think it will be Okoro, at least to start. And if he gives them absolutely nothing, maybe they have to go make a move. But yeah, I mean, I think Rubio's definitely one of the 3 off the bench. I think Jetty's probably one of the 3 off the bench.
Levert.
Yeah.
So wait a second, but
there's really no size
if they
in those
don't
3.
take Okoro out of the mix, is Stevens still in the mix, or do you think he's going to decide on one of them and the other guy doesn't play in the playoffs?
That's what me and Jason were going back and forth on last night. And Jason, I'll let you answer, but essentially, I said I thought there was a way you might be able to play both, kind of sub them back and forth. But Jason made the point. That's 4 and 5 for 48 minutes.
Nah,
it's hard to win that way.
It's only one or the other.
So here's what I would say about Lamar. Remember Dante Jones came in the NBA Finals game and made like 2 or 3 really big impact plays and gotta-have-it moments. Maybe Lamar is that guy where you're just looking for just a punch right now. You're just looking for a little bit of injection right now and a little bit of bring us some sort of energy, and he can make the Dante play going into halftime. Or he can give you – I don't think he's part of the rotation, but maybe he can give you 2 really good minutes. Right. And then maybe eventually if Okoro disappears like I'm afraid he might, then maybe Lamar overtakes him for that spot. I don't think they're going to play Lamar heavy minutes in the postseason, though, and Okoro.
Don't you think Lamar plays with a lot more confidence than Okoro does?
He does. He plays like an undrafted guy.
Right.
Like he plays like a guy fighting for his life, fighting for his career.
He looks.
I'm a big Lamar guy. And Dean too. Like I give the Cavs credit. This organization in the past has really struggled with identifying undrafted guys, developing them, making them key pieces. Excuse me. And Lamar and Dean Wade have both been those guys that they kind of picked off the trash heap and turned into productive NBA players.
What's your confidence level that they, as constituted, win a first-round series?
I still waffle. I think less than 50%.
I'm like 48 to 52%.
Yeah.
I think they have the far. If it is New York, they have a much more talented roster, I believe. But I would give the coaching edge to New York. And I don't know that the Cavs can go in the Garden and win a game. And I think they're going to need to win at least one in the Garden.
Yeah. Can I ask a question on that real quick?
Yeah,
of course.
About that, Jason. And we saw this in the chat, so I'm going to bring a chat comment in. And whenever we do that, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wycliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Jason, you mentioned Bickerstaff maybe having a disadvantage against Thibodeau in a coaching matchup. Where on the tiers do you think Bickerstaff ranks? Tier 1 is probably Pop, Spo, 1 or 2 other guys. Is he a tier 2, a tier 3 guy? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
Thibodeau or Bickerstaff?
Bickerstaff.
Oh.
I don't know how you can put him tier 2 even without any playoff experience.
He's never coached a playoff game. How do you know?
That's where these guys make their bones.
Yeah.
Like I've screamed it. I'll continue to scream it into the clouds. Biggest mistake the Cavs made throughout this whole thing was firing Ty. Like Ty is a playoff postseason coach.
Right.
His ability to scheme and get guys off the floor and run ATOs, that is his wheelhouse. And I don't know if JB's in that or not. I mean, you can't put him any higher than tier 3 right now.
I think he's
we need and frankly, it's not fair to judge him off. We have to.
Right.
But it's not fair to him to judge him off of one playoff series. Like he's going to make mistakes.
Right,
it's his first time. And the hope is, I mean, look at Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown is a sensational coach.
Doing a great job in Sacramento.
He's doing a great job. Yeah, and I went and spent time with him and wrote a big story on him. Even when he was in Cleveland, he knew the X's and O's, but he didn't really relate to players. And it took him time to sort of figure it out and figure out how to do this. And there are things JB does really well and other things that he's got to figure out and get better at. And it's just in the NBA, a lot of times you don't have time to wait on guys to figure it out.
Is he all right, I have to have a comparison. Is he a better coach than Nate McMillan?
JB?
Yeah.
All
right, so if you go, and I don't want to say this.
I would take JB over Nate McMillan.
Okay,
yes.
so in the pecking order, it's Mike Brown, Mike Woodson, or we just say Nate McMillan. Is he a better coach?
I'd take
over all those guys.
I would take Mike Brown over all of them. I'd take Mike over JB.
Okay.
I think Mike is.
He's made Sacramento relevant for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, all these guys except David Blatt are phenomenal, and know what they're doing, and know X's and O's, and know they're all so good. But I was with Mike when he came back the second time. he and I were at a hotel in Vegas, and he was like running through plays. And we had like a napkin dispenser and salt shakers, and he's diagramming things. And I am by no means a basketball savant, but I can like keep up with schemes and ideas. And he was 5 steps ahead. He was like, okay, wait, you slow it. You got to come back. You lost me. And he talked for them like, okay, wait a minute. You got to back up. You lost me. The way Mike's brain operates and his mind works is phenomenal. It was just unfortunate that he didn't really connect with guys. He got screwed here. He never should have been fired the second time. Yeah. And I'm thrilled for him that he's having success here in Sacramento. I would put Mike Brown, him on that tier 1, tier 2 level, like right on the threshold. If you go back and look at his, I don't know why we're spending so much time on Mike. I guess that's my fault.
Final thought on it.
But if you look at his winning percentage for number of games, I think it's 500 games coached, which is a pretty high bar. That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
He's in like the top 5, top 10 all-time in coaches.
Really quickly.
A lot of it with LeBron.
Well, Phil Jackson had Kobe and Michael.
Fair.
You got to have stars to be that high.
There's a guy on the staff that has been a couple times coach. He was a hot candidate for a long time. Luke Walton. Is there any chance that he's the Ty Lue to a Blatt in case or if this happened, or they don't see him as a guy like that?
No. Ty was to Blatt what JB was to Beeline. JB was the break glass in case of emergency.
Okay.
Luke, I like Luke a lot. I've known Luke since he played here. I don't think he's looked at as that savior guy. Frankly, I don't think he would get the job if they fired JB.
He had a really bad tenure with the Lakers and Sacramento. Really bad.
All right, guys. Good conversation. Let's move it on. We got a new segment on the show. Mike's about to tell us about.
We got a new segment today. It is brought to us by BetJack. The time is now, Ohio sports fans. Sports betting is live. You can download the BetJack app today, so you'll be ready to go on all the action. BetJack. It is Ohio Sportsbook. And this next segment, I hope, can become something we do every couple of weeks here because I think it's going to lead to some fun discussions. I can't say the actual words, but we've all played the game FMK.
Yeah, everybody knows that game.
Circumstances. Everyone knows the game. Mm-hmm. So we turned it into a sports discussion. Keep, cut, trade. Same rule. Yeah. 3 choices. You got to put one in each category. And these are all Cleveland athlete related. So the first one, you have to keep one, you have to cut one.
Just so the fans know, trade and cut, in some ways is the same thing. You want to get rid of them. But
cut, you get nothing in return,
is
though.
More harsh because you think they're worse.
Cut is the equivalent of kill.
Yes.
And you can figure out the other 2.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to say the word. Yes. So these are all Cleveland athlete edition.
Well, Mary would be
say
keep.
Mary.
Mary would be keep.
Mary would be keep, and then you could do the deduction to figure out what the third
would
one
be
is.
trade.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
So the first one.
Fornicate, marry, kill. New name.
The first one is the Cleveland Superstar edition.
Okay.
Take it full, Steve. Keep, cut, trade. Nick Chubb, Jose Ramirez, Donovan Mitchell.
I love that one.
Dang.
Ooh. I like it. I kind of like it. The keep is easy for me. I'm keeping Jose Ramirez. For me.
See, I'm keeping Donovan. Because he's younger.
Yeah.
Now, do their wishes come into play here?
I guess.
What if they don't want to be here?
You factor it. I factored that in for me.
If we take out
factor in whatever you want to factor in, right, Mike?
However you can run with this however you want to run with this.
Are we all picking our own?
Yeah,
pick
your own.
Group effort.
Okay.
I know mine. Do you guys want time?
You go first.
All right. I'm keeping Donovan because he's younger, prime of his career.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold him hostage and pretend that he wants to spend the rest of his career here.
Yeah.
I'm trading Jose because I have faith that the Guardians can just keep churning prospects. They've got 17 middle infield prospects. One of these guys can play third base. He's under contract. It's a very manageable contract. You're going to get a lot in return for him in a trade. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to cut Nick Chubb because it's very painful.
Yeah.
But running backs are very replaceable in the NFL.
Yeah.
We know that. And I don't know why Cleveland is so hell-bent on running him out of town the last 24, 48 hours.
I don't know that
well, Twitter's not real life.
Yeah.
Twitter's make-believe.
Yeah.
But under this scenario, I would cut Nick Chubb.
Man,
keep Donovan Mitchell, trade Jose Ramirez, cut Nick Chubb.
Actually, this is as you listen to Jay or Jason. He's
Jay's not here today, so I guess
so he can be the Jay. We got all kind of nicknames, right? This is spot on. This is easy one. You got Jose Ramirez. The Guardians find dudes everywhere. Not only do they have, just got pitchers, they got a stack of middle infielders. I'm sure one of those guys can slide over to third. Now, Jose is an MVP candidate most years, and I know this is difficult to get, but the Guardians don't do themselves any favor because they could get rid of MVP caliber players, and it seems like they find other people and replacements.
Yeah.
Don't miss a step. So as good as he is, I say I'm going to have to trade him, and I might give me some pitchers. I'm keeping Donovan Mitchell. In the NBA, you can't win unless you got multiple stars, and so he's a guy in his prime of his career, 27 points a game. He's the closer on this team, like Jason said. Listen, they've been rolling the ball out in the fourth quarter, say, hey, Donovan, put us on your back. He's been doing a good job of it, and he has playoff caliber experience, clutch shooter. I'm definitely keeping Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And as bad as it hurts my heart and my soul, I got to cut Nick Chubb. We'll bring him back as a consultant of some sort. But the reality of the situation is Deshaun Watson going to be playing in the air raid offense, throwing the ball 70 times anyway. So that one was kind of easy as I rationalized it.
Make the case now for Jose.
You guys logically are correct, especially because in reality, you're going to get, from a baseball perspective, way more for Jose than you would get from Donovan Mitchell just because of the natures of the sport.
Yeah.
And when you said, before we do it, how much could you get on the open market for Jose Ramirez?
In a trade?
In a trade.
He's done the best contract in baseball,
Yeah.
so.
You'd get a haul.
Yeah.
You'd get a haul of top prospects or whatever, way more than you get for Donovan Mitchell. Because of especially because when the Cavs do trade Donovan Mitchell, if it happens, they're going to be forced to trade him to a certain place.
Yep.
It's going to be. But I'm still going to make the case for Jose Ramirez.
Go for it.
Because I'm taking some of the realities of what you get back in a trade, and instead I'm replacing it with, this man loves being a Guardian.
Yep.
Now, for me personally, I know I'm in the minority in Cleveland, but if I had to pick one Cleveland team to win a championship in the next 10 years, for me it's an easy choice. I'd rather it be the Guardians. They're my favorite Cleveland team.
I'm with you.
Okay?
They've done it the right way.
Yes. I love everything. Dolan's too cheap, but I like everything else he does as an owner. I love the guys in the front office. I love Terry Francona. I love almost every player on the team. I love the team, and I want them to win so badly. I really do. So, and Jose loves being a Guardian. He loves it. He took $100 million. Arguably less to stay. Who does that?
Look at the contracts guys are signing this offseason.
It's crazy.
San Diego is writing checks like Jeff Bezos.
You paid Xander Bogaerts, good player,
Twice as much.
twice as much. He's not as close to good as Jose Ramirez. That's why I can't. Listen. I love Nick Chubb too. He's one of my all-time favorite football players. But I got to cut Nick Chubb, and I would trade Donovan Mitchell because I can get more than Nick Chubb.
Business is business.
It is,
Jose may love Cleveland, but he brings
hear
the
you.
most back in
He
trade.
does.
That
You're
haul,
right, you're right.
I get 10 pictures, 3 DHs, a bag of popcorn, and stadium right
They
names.
get 4 more middle infield prospects.
Mikey, what's next?
That was good. That was good. Okay, so that was the Superstar
Yeah.
edition.
Okay.
This is the sophomore sensation list.
Okay.
Keep cut trade. Martin Emerson, Stephen Kwan, and Evan Mobley.
Oh, my God in heaven.
This is rough.
I mean,
Oh, my.
to me, the cut is easy.
Is it?
For me, it's easy.
Is it?
For me, I'm just saying. For me,
Oh, man.
I think
I know where you're. I'm in Bull's head. I know exactly
know.
where you're gonna
Yeah.
cut Mobley.
you're wrong. No.
I think
I'd cut Quan.
Wow.
I'd cut Quan.
See, I'd cut Emerson. That was a no-brainer to me.
No. No, look, the size of that dude.
Nah.
He's my keeper.
I'm gonna go a different route. I think I got it. I'm trading Evan Mobley, right? I want to trade Evan Mobley for the first pick because I want that Victor Wembanyama guy. Give me him.
Wow. Yeah, he's supposed to be. What is he?
He's supposed to
7'4"?
Yeah,
7'5",
so-
and Mobley wouldn't even sniff the discussion to get
He's
Wembanyama right now.
He's right.
That's crazy.
Mobley's not getting you that number one.
Nobody
pick.
would trade that pick for anything.
Nothing.
That is the most valuable draft pick since LeBron James.
Come
number one
on,
pick at
it's like
23.
that.
Nothing. Nothing.
All right,
will
but
get
I'm
that
going to
done.
use Jason's logic from the last one, and I'm going to trade Mobley. I'm going to cut Emerson. I'm going to keep Quan because Quan is not a guy you get a ton back for in a trade because he doesn't hit for power.
That's why I'm cutting him.
And I'm trading Mobley because I could get more back for him than I could get for Emerson. I know Emerson was good as a rookie. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think he's going to be a special player. I think Quan's going to be an all-star. I think Mobley's going to be an all-star. I don't think Emerson's going to be a Pro Bowler.
I could cut Emerson, and if I cut Emerson, I could still put Newsom over there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep Quan because
Get that? We're on the same page.
I'm going to keep Quan because I just think he's going to be like an each real type. I think in like 4 years, we're going to be looking up and saying, look how many hits he already got, right?
Yeah.
I agree. I don't want to cut any of these guys.
No, none of us do.
Like, gun to the head, you got to make a decision here.
You're cutting Quan.
I think Mobley is a transcendent talent. I'm keeping him. I'm
Okay.
keeping Evan Mobley.
Do
I
you
think
trading
he's that
Emerson?
good. I'm trading Emerson.
Okay.
Do you believe? Well, my second, since y'all won't give me Wembley Album, whatever his name is.
What is his name? Wembanaya?
Wembley.
Victor Wembanyama,
Wembanyama. Where's he from? What country?
France.
7'5"?
He is 7'5". He's averaging 22, 12, and 4 as a 19-year-old in the top pro France
But
league.
those leagues don't, in terms of the
They're
stats,
getting better. They're getting better.
I mean, it's better than LeBron against high school kids
Man,
in terms of talent comparison.
He sounds like a
He's playing against grown men. Is the thing.
Are you?
Yeah.
I've always worried guys that tall about like knee problems.
And he
or
does
foot
already have.
problems.
He's already had a knee issue.
Yeah.
And foot,
Yeah.
joint, absolutely.
So
it's a
here,
concern.
so here's what I'm gonna do though. If I can't get him, I know who I can get for Wembley. I'm trading him to the Lakers. Can I get LeBron for Mobley?
Oh, yeah, but that would be.
But this is a situation.
So it's
where
a
we gotta
situation
choose
where
one,
I ain't gotta
so-
choose. So if I trade him, think about it. If I trade him, and assuming LeBron is healthy, if I trade Mobley to the Lakers,
I mean, you better get more than LeBron.
so I want, what if you pick another guy you want to throw in there, whatever it is. I'll ask you, Jason. You can throw a guy.
Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, no.
Whatever the hell his name is.
We get something else with him, but a LeBron, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, Garland, that could win a championship.
I mean, the way that the league views Mobley, he's in the second year of a deal. He's going to sign a max extension here. You've got him on a great deal, and you've got him under control for 5 more years, basically. So,
These are not great scenarios. We're screwed either way.
Could you win a championship with that?
With what? Say it again.
If you had an Allen, LeBron,
Mobley,
Donovan Mitchell,
Garland
and Garland, could you win a championship with that?
I mean, you put LeBron on any team, you got a chance to win a championship. Most any team.
Yeah.
But I would, in that scenario, I'd try and flip Allen and keep Mobley. I'd try and give him Allen if you got to make a trade. But I'd cut.
But that's not part of this experiment.
I love Stephen Kwan. I love
Yeah.
Stephen Kwan. I just campaigned for them to sign him to a 6-year, $40-some-odd million deal. Like, I want Stephen Kwan here for the next 15 years, and I think he will be, and I think he's going to have a fabulous career.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me it's again, and a year from now, I may look like an idiot.
Yeah.
If Emerson falls flat.
Right.
But I just think that I think Kwan is the most replaceable in baseball, more so than a corner of Emerson's size and potential and what Mobley can be.
All right, number 3.
Before we get to number 3, I just want to say we are not advocating for anyone to be cut.
No,
we are
of course
not
not.
legitimately saying any team should
Fact.
cut
People
Stephen
know-
Kwan.
I'm gonna have people sending me
I'm
video
just saying
clips
for the
of
people
this
out there
and-
who are Anthony, just chime in as the voice of God here.
The chat is brutal, guys. They're so mad about all the negativity.
What negativity? What are we
I don't know,
supposed
I'm
to
just-
do? We got to cut somebody.
I know we're playing a game here.
don't
we're not
understand people.
advocating. So
we have to cut one of these guys. We have no choice.
I'm just saying we are not
People.
advocating for the Guardians to cut Stephen Kwan
Yeah.
after that
Go ahead.
miraculous season. But okay, next one is
Yeah.
the Cleveland fan favorite trio: Wyatt Teller, Oscar Gonzalez, Jetty Osman. Which fan favorite are you cutting, Bo? Which one do you hate the most? Is essentially what the chat wants to
I'm
know.
cutting Jetty. I'm trading. I'm keeping. Oh,
I gotcha.
I'm keeping Oscar and trading Wyatt.
I think I'm with you. I probably could get more. Now, you know what?
I don't know what you're gonna get for Wyatt,
Yeah, and I don't know what you're gonna get for Oscar either, because he wasn't a top prospect.
but Oscar's the youngest and has the
Yeah.
highest ceiling.
I'm
and
with
could
you.
Be
I'm with you. I'm
something.
keeping Oscar, trading Wyatt. Cutting Jetty is easy.
Jetty has no trade value.
If
But we knew Jason was going to cut Jetty because he hates Jetty. That was a
I don't hate Jetty. Listen, I don't hate you, Jetty. I think you're a fine player. I think too much is asked of you sometimes.
You're a fine young man.
Fine young man.
Hey, listen, Jetty, that's an easy one. That's an easy cut. He'll land somewhere. Teller, man, I would trade Teller. I don't know what you get for a guard. What do you get for a guard?
An $18 million guard coming off a significant injury and didn't have a
What do you
great
get
year
for
even though he
that
went to the
much?
Pro Bowl.
You might as well just
Not
keep
getting
him.
a lot.
You might as well keep him and try to flip Gonzalez. And here's the thing: the Guardians be having so many players, they should naturally always be the guy who you trade because they got like 10 people that can replace him.
But here's the thing with Gonzalez. I don't think he has much trade value because no one really knows. Like the ceiling is way up here and the floor is way down here. I would put up against those other two dudes. He's by far got the highest ceiling and the longest runway.
Where we've already seen Wyatt Teller's ceiling.
Yeah.
We don't know if he can get back there.
Right.
We'll see. All right, next, Mikey.
Okay, Steve, it's 171 here. This is the opposite of the fan favorite. This is the Cleveland might be happy to cut one of these. Let's put it that way. Steve, take it. Isaac Okoro, Aaron Savali, Anthony Schwartz.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Do your worst.
Oh my God.
This was an Anthony suggestion, by the way. Anthony came up with this one.
Wow,
So.
this is rough.
I mean, could you get anything for? You couldn't get anything for Schwartz. You couldn't get anything for Savali. Could you get anything for Okoro in a trade?
They tried to shop Okoro and got nothing.
I'm keeping Okoro.
Trading
I'm
Savali.
Trading
cutting
Savali
Schwartz.
and cutting Schwartz.
I mean, you wouldn't get anything for Savali. You get
But
like
I mean, pitching is such a premium. You might get a reliever for him. That
I
you
guess
can
I
use.
would. I agree with you. Maybe you get a lottery ticket prospect.
And Okoro is still young enough that you hope that he can grow into what we were talking about earlier as a 3-and-D guy. Pitching is hard to get, man. And we've seen it out of Savali. So I do think at worst, you get like a Jake Westbrook trade where you get a double-A Corey Kluber, you know what I mean? And you get a
Jake
guy
Westbrook.
who, I'm just saying, you get a guy who you don't know much about. I would trust this developmental staff with any prospect, really.
But what? You don't think they could turn around Savali?
I do think they could, but you're making me do one of these guys. So
Pause.
Schwartz has.
Add it to the list.
I'll tell you what. Schwartz has no redeeming qualities. Like he can't.
all right, I'm going home. I'll see you on Thursday.
He can't catch. He doesn't run routes very well. He's fragile.
He's useless. Obviously, he's getting cut.
Yeah.
I mean, he might. I'm surprised the Browns haven't cut him yet.
Do you think you think he makes this team?
No. You think?
No.
No, he can't.
No.
There's no way to justify keeping him on the roster again. No. All right, next, Mikey.
All right, so that was the 4 we came up with, but I have a curveball. Steve, go back to 143 real quick. This was the first one we did. Now, we disagreed on who we were keeping and who we were trading, but we all agreed Nick Chubb was on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Is that what the fans got most mad about?
That is the one the fans got most mad about.
But what would they want us to do? What did the fans want us to do?
Anthony, let's ask the chat. What would you do in this situation if you had to pick? But
what were they mad about? We had to cut one of them. They're all great players.
Steve, pull it back up. With this scenario,
yeah.
How would it change if we substituted Nick Chubb for Myles Garrett?
Oh my God!
So you have now Myles Garrett, Jose Ramirez, Donovan Mitchell.
That's tough.
And we don't have a graphic for this because I just thought of it, but swap out Myles Garrett there.
Dang, that's crazy.
Now it feels impossible.
That is impossible.
Because
that's impossible. I'm not doing any of those guys.
All right, we have to. We have to. I am cutting.
Lord, that hurts.
I'm keeping Myles. Premium position in the NFL, prime of his career.
Premium.
I'm keeping
I can
Myles
get a lot
Garrett.
for him in a trade.
Okay.
I win with offense.
Possibly 2 number ones, you think?
I'm keeping Myles
Khalil
Garrett.
Mack went for 2
I'm
number
still
ones.
keeping Jose. I'm cutting Donovan Mitchell, and I'm trading Myles Garrett.
I'm keeping Myles.
I mean, they're all bad options.
They're all bad options. They're all bad options.
Man, it's hard to quantify how much a baseball player really makes in a wins-loss total. I just think you can find somebody. I would have to, but then it was like, who?
So what are you cutting Jose? No, you're cutting Donovan Mitchell.
I'm cutting Donovan.
I'd have
I'm
to
trading
cut
Jose.
Donovan because I
could get more for Jose than Donovan.
I can't
Absolutely.
get nothing for Donovan. He probably gonna want to go to one team, and it's gonna have to be nah. I had to cut Donovan Mitchell. I'm gonna have to trade Jose. I'm gotta keep Myles Garrett. But here's the thing: if a fool want to give me, say they give you 2 number 1s and a 2, that's crazy
For Myles?
Yeah.
Okay, now you need a premier edge rusher that you just gave up. Like, come on, man.
Right, you got to find one.
I am not trading Myles.
And then there's no guarantee that we even hit on them dudes.
Until
right?
he comes to me and says, I'm not playing another minute here.
That was tough, man.
That's
Good
brutal.
gracious.
Make up another one. We still have a little time.
Well, I think of another one. What'd you guys, before I tell you how my phone and Twitter is reacting, what'd you guys think of this? Did you enjoy it?
I like
I thought
it.
it was
it's
great.
fun.
I thought it was great.
I have gotten tweets and texts from people who watch the show, and I haven't seen the YouTube chat. I'm just listening to Anthony. I've had 2 people say that's the most painful thing I've ever had to sit through.
Right.
Really?
No,
like
I don't think
painful.
bad as in
No, I
painful.
mean, like,
Having to make those decisions.
I've had someone tweet me say this is a terrible segment idea, and I've had 2 people text me say this is awesome, do it again. So that means we probably nailed it.
It's a great
right in the middle.
segment. It's painful. Anybody getting mad is an idiot.
like,
I know I was advised not to call people idiots, but you're an idiot if you get mad about this segment. Like we don't. I mean, obviously, Mitchell Schwartz, Anthony Schwartz, we don't give a rat's ass about. But like when it comes to Nick Chubb and the great players, like obviously we wouldn't want to cut any of them.
It's like I
Getting
think,
mad about it is absurd.
I think the reason why Cleveland fans get so uptight about it is we have very few people that we even call our own. We have very few people that move the needle nationally. Very few people that ever make any accolades like MVP. So when you get the top of the food chain, when you start to some people, you shouldn't even say Nick Chubb's name.
I know. They feel like us even playing this game will make Nick Chubb want to leave Cleveland. That's what they feel like.
Facts. You putting it out there.
We mentioned Donovan Mitchell being traded. He's going to want to be traded.
He's out of here. He's out of here.
That's why people are uptight about it.
They do not like that.
I think it's the scars which I get, that will never heal from the Browns being pulled out of Cleveland, being stolen here.
Unless they win a Super Bowl.
Yes, but I just think the fans are perpetually scared.
Yeah,
And because most of the good players that have played here have left in all the sports.
You're right.
And
right.
that combination makes people scared.
Well, I got one more for you guys, by the way.
Okay,
From the chat.
let's
This
do
is
it.
from the chat from Justin Klink.
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski.
Early's cracking up as if he heard the funniest joke that's ever been told. What is
Are
happening?
you laughing at what Tequila said? All right, well, we got two then from the chat here real quick. First, Tito, Stefanski, JB.
That's easy.
I keep it Tito.
Keeping Tito, trading Stefanski, cutting.
I totally agree. Cut JB, trade Stefanski, keep Tito.
Yeah, that was easy.
That's an easy one.
Okay.
I couldn't
Next,
even go against that. I tried to think something.
I'm going to let Anthony and Earl answer this one.
All right.
You can't see them. They're just the voice of God. We only have one camera. We got 2 mics. You ready? This is from Tequila Mockingbird. Jason G. Bush Bull. Cut, keep, kill. Cut, keep,
Kill.
trade.
Cut, keep, kill.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
keeping
putting him in a tough spot.
Oh, this is great.
I'm listening.
Michael Florentiki or whatever his name is.
I'm
He
gonna
said cut
probably
all
trade G.
Oh, my God.
I'm gonna trade G.
I just got a bullet
G
to the
got
head.
viral earlier this year. We could get so much back from G right now. Jason, man, I love you to death, man, but I gotta cut you, brother.
I just got Pesci.
gotta cut
I
you.
just got a shovel to the head.
Man, Mike, you put him in a tough spot, but Earl.
I remember
showed a lot of
that.
guts.
Anthony?
All right, I'm keeping G because he bought me a hoodie. I'm gonna trade Jason because he knows LeBron, so he can get me something for that.
Anthony's dead to me.
And then I'm sorry, Bull, you're getting cut,
You're
but
dead to
I'll
me,
talk to you
Anthony.
on your podcast.
I had
don't know.
taken you under my wing, and now you're dead to me.
Oh, Lord.
Should we ask Director Steve?
Hey, look,
You want to put him in a tough spot, too?
Steve just got so red.
Hey,
Steve just got
see,
so
Make
red.
him do
this
it.
is why this is great, because we showing you in real time just how hard this is.
Oh, my
This is
God,
the game.
that's
We even
true.
played it with us.
This is Steve Becker actually asked us this yesterday, and we all thought there was an easy answer. We'll ask you here. First Energy, Progressive, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Keeping Progressive.
Yes.
cutting First Energy right
Yes.
into the river, right into the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Let
Cutting
it
the whole
burn.
land off.
Cut it, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let it fall into the lake.
Yeah,
and
that-
trade whatever's left.
Trade the
Rocket Mortgage.
Rocket Mortgage, yeah.
My gosh, man. I was just watching, even when we talk about First Energy, right? I was just watching, I get in these YouTube time machines, and I was just going to, like, you know, NFL Films, one of the hardest places to play, right? And the dog pound in Old Municipal Stadium comes up. And I'm just sitting there watching it, and I was getting chills because I'm like, wow, man, that was a hard-ass place to play. Like, people were brutal.
Right. And this
They was
place,
throwing
no.
stuff on the field. Like, it was not a place for children. They was like, do not, back then, like you see now, it's a family atmosphere.
Flame.
Oh, my goodness.
What
You
I don't
could not
understand
do
is
that.
the Haslam family and the executives there have turned the dog pound into the whole stadium.
There is not
Dog
a dog
pound
pound.
isn't the whole stadium.
Jason, there is no dog pound. It's not even, like,
It sucks.
I mean, I've infuriated enough people today. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say what I
There's
really
no
think should happen.
atmosphere
to
at
Dog
that
Pound.
right.
Wait,
That
Jason,
stadium
you want
has-
to piss off one more person?
Yeah,
This
go
is
ahead.
from the chat. This is the last one. Then we got to do a little promo read. And hopefully, Aditi hops in.
All right.
Keep trade cut. McNuggets, Anthony Earl. This is from Freddie B in the chat.
Well, too late, Earl. Too late. I got a knife in my back.
Now,
I'm going to pull it out and
no,
put it in
we've
yours.
already been put under the spotlight enough.
Yeah, so
wanna have to
you guys
answer
can
that
kill
one.
us.
Oh,
I don't want to. I'm cutting Anthony.
Yeah.
You just cut me.
that's right.
I should get cut because I can't spell anything right.
Two things we got to do real quick.
Yeah, go
We
ahead.
have the poll results from the G. Bush middle name contest. G.
Oh,
Bush.
yeah.
This show is a little bit of everything. You cannot find
I like
a show on
this.
YouTube that's Cleveland sports based that does what we do here. We had 5 guesses that had over 7% for G's middle name.
Are they ones that we've already asked?
Maybe.
Go ahead.
But apparently the right answer is in here. G, don't tell us which one's right till at the end. You
How
ready?
do you know one of those is right?
Because Anthony actually knows the answer.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Ethan.
crazy.
Got 8%.
Okay.
G, don't tell us which one's right
All
till
right,
the
go
end.
ahead.
Yeah.
Read them.
Emmett got 23.
Didn't somebody guess Emmett already?
I did guess Emmett.
Okay.
Eugene got
Oh, that's
47%.
gotta be- That's got to be.
Oh, that's a good one.
Emmanuel got
Ooh, could be
20%.
Emmanuel.
So Jason, I know the answer now, but Jason and Bull.
There's no black guy with the name Ethan. There's no such thing as a black guy with the name Ethan. So I don't know why anybody would guess that.
I went to all white schools.
Yeah, but your parents didn't name you after you went to all white schools. I've never heard of a black guy named Ethan. That's impossible. That is such a
I'm
white
trying to
name.
think.
So it's got to be
I'm going
Emmanuel
Eugene. I'm going Eugene.
I think it's Eugene too.
G. Bush? What is it?
Well, you said way at the end of the show.
So,
Oh, no,
no,
well, we got
give
the
it out.
results. We got the
Yeah.
results
All
now.
right.
The poll's done.
Oh, okay, cool. Listen, so you guys are pretty dope. Actually, my father's name is Eugene.
Ah, there we go. Oh.
But that's my father, not me. My middle name is Emmanuel.
Oh! Emmanuel.
Emmanuel El Cabond.
By
It
the
is
way,
egregious.
there
It
is
not
a
Ethan.
Major League Baseball player with the first name Emmanuel. He's not famous, but there is one.
There's only a couple.
Emmanuel
people.
Classe.
Emmanuel Classe.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't even thinking of him.
Bad job out of you, Bull.
That's a terrible job.
No wonder you got cut.
But G said there was no famous players.
Emmanuel Lewis.
Ethan
might
Horton.
Be, Emmanuel Lewis, the
Emmanuel
little time.
Lewis,
yeah.
remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, my nickname
Emmanuel
means
Cooper.
God is with us in Hebrew, I believe.
We got Aditi, so before we bring in on Aditi, I got 2 things to tell you guys. If you're not already a member of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports
Yeah,
Show,
we've been.
you are silly not to be. For $1.99 a month, you get loyalty badges, custom emojis, members-only community posts for $4.99 a month. You get all those same starter tier perks, plus overtime videos, discount codes for merch, member shout-outs. You get to text with some of us during select Cavaliers games. Also, today's overtime content is LeBron James drunk tweeting, and he's got to stop doing that. We're
How
going
do
to
we
have a
know
lot
he
of
was
fun
drunk?
with this.
You're just guessing he was drunk?
There's no way he tweets that sober, in my opinion. Plus, the time it came out, we will get into that. He was drunk dreaming the other day. He's drunk tweeting now. It's going to be a fun conversation. And as always, I know it's a minute or 2 before noon, but our noon hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is brought to us by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team. Without further ado, what's up, Aditi?
Now there's
It's time for family therapy with
there we
Aditi.
go. Aditi, do you have a very long middle name, or do you have a regular Americanized middle name?
No, actually, my middle name is Kinkhabwala.
Oh, really?
When I got married, I had to change my name. I pushed Kinkhabwala to the middle, so I'm Aditi Kinkhabwala Guinness.
No, but what's your birth last name?
Middle name.
Or wait a second. No.
My birth middle name is my father's name because that's Indian tradition.
Oh,
that you
okay.
always get. That the babies always have the father's first name as their middle name.
Ah.
Yeah,
okay,
my wife had to do the
Which,
same thing.
interestingly enough, that was my husband's. Oh, I'm sorry, G, but that was my husband's tradition too. My husband's middle name is his father's name.
Oh.
So I don't know that that's only Indian. That might just be tradition across several different cultures.
I don't know.
My wife did the exact same thing, and she changed her middle name to her maiden name.
Middle name to
Her maiden name is now her middle name.
Got you. I see what you said.
Right.
Yeah, my wife did
So
the same thing.
so Jason, what's her middle name now?
Zali. That was her maiden name. Good Italian. name.
Zali.
Did she have a middle name that
And
she
what
got
did you do
rid
with
of?
your kids? Did you give Zali to any of your
No.
kids?
No, they're Lloyd through and through. They're Lloyd men. They're Lloyd men.
They're all Lloyd.
But her original, she was named after her grandmother, and she booted the name out. Got rid of Grandma's name.
Grandma got out.
Grandma got out, so she's now. But we don't hyphenate or anything like that. They are Lloyd children.
Yeah, I mean,
that
we don't
hurts
either,
Sterling.
but how's this one? This probably says a lot that you'll either approve or disapprove of. Nico, my first, his middle name is Kinkhabwala because at the time, my brother hadn't had a son, my cousin hadn't had any children. I had no idea if the Kinkhabwala name would go on.
Right.
And my argument was that your middle name is just an initial. So let it mean something. But here's what's really funny is that Nico tells everybody that his name is Nico Kinkhabwala Guinness.
That's a mouthful.
When the janitor, so one day I was at multicultural night at Fairview Elementary School, and the janitor pulls me aside, or the school custodian pulls me aside, and he says, your son runs everything at recess. He's the one that's the quarterback and the coach and the this, and this. And after a little while, I was like, I wonder why he knows he's my kid, because the custodian knows me as Aditi Kinkhabwala, but Nico should be known as Nico Guinness in school. So why would anybody put the two together? Mm-hmm. And I asked Nico, I said, how'd the custodian know that you're my son? And he goes, Mommy, I tell everybody that my name is Nico Kinkhabwala.
Wow.
Wow.
Good
That's
for
awesome.
I was like, don't tell your daddy that. Don't tell your daddy that.
And thus it comes back to the husband again. Here we go.
Sorry. All right, anyway,
No, it's
moving
funny.
on. No, you know what, guys? To be perfectly honest, I was just in the doctor's office for an hour and a half with my 3-year-old. So if any news broke in the last hour and a half, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to tell Mikey, hey, give me 3 more minutes so I can just do the cliff notes to see if I missed anything major.
No, well, I don't think anything's happened in the last hour. Nothing major.
Nope.
So, but let's talk about what happened yesterday. I'm curious, your take. We actually haven't even talked about this yet, but of the two quarterbacks that signed yesterday, Derek Carr signs with New Orleans 4 for $150, and Geno re-signs with Seattle 3 for $105. If you were those teams, or if you were a fan of those two teams, which of those contracts would you be happier with? As a fan.
I think that's so hard because each one is the right fit where they are. And I think that, the one thing that we've learned in covering the NFL is that so much of these contract numbers are fake numbers.
That's true.
It's what does the agent want out there to look like it is something? And this is something that I know for a fact about, for instance, David Njoku's contract. The way that it was billed and publicly put out there is not what it actually is if you get into the nitty gritty. And so the people that leak contract numbers are always agents. Agents look better if those numbers seem inflated in some way. That's completely true. Separate of that, I think that Geno Smith gave the Seahawks so much more than that fan base expected a year ago. every quarterback is better a second year in a system than in a first year. You can only expect more. You have to feel good about that. And you guys know what a big fan of Derek Carr's I am and how motivated he is to have a monster year right now and go someplace where he feels that he is appreciated. And he is, bar none, one of the best humans and best leaders I've been around in the National Football League. Everything that he has put up with the Raiders organization, the undying loyalty he gave that organization, the way that he was willing to go down with the ship with that organization, the Saints are very, very fortunate to have him. Very fortunate.
By the way, neither of those guys has ever won a playoff game.
Right, but I don't think that Derek Carr was in ever any sort of position to do so. 2 years ago, it was sort of a surprise with Rich Bisaccia after the mess of that season. And P.S., it was Derek Carr who helped hold that team together when there was the John Gruden mess and the Henry Ruggs mess and all of that. I think that Gino hasn't really had a chance.
He hasn't played.
Right?
Yeah.
So just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't happen.
It's true. Aditi, what would you do? We just played a little musical chairs about will really sign, cut, trade somebody. If you were the Baltimore Ravens and you were in charge per se, would you sign Lamar Jackson to the guaranteed contract that he wants? Would you trade him for draft picks or capital, or would you franchise tag him?
I think right now the Ravens absolutely have to franchise tag him for multiple reasons. And so much of this is also a psychological game, right? Like, Lamar Jackson is the type of player that you want to make sure knows that you have unyielding faith in him and you are totally loyal to him. And I think nothing could be more detrimental than if word got out or word got to him that the Ravens were kicking the tires on trading him, which I'm not saying they are or that I've heard has happened. I just think that there's sort of a bigger picture here, a bigger game here. But from the beginning, I've said to you, I think that this is just sort of the most unusual, fascinating, if you want to use that word, contract negotiation that I've ever witnessed in any sort of way. And I have no question that Eric DaCosta has wanted it done for a long time, that he's putting everything in to get it done. But that's why the decision today, whether it's the exclusive franchise tag or the non-exclusive, is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it is.
It seems like it would be easy to say, oh, well, it should be the exclusive. You're all in on this player. You believe in this player. You've designed your offense around this player, all of that. The non-exclusive saves money. I don't think that this is what this is about. Steve Bisciotti doesn't make decisions. The Ravens owner doesn't make decisions. How do I save a couple dollars? It's how do I win? But remember, Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent. So if it's the non-exclusive, how are other teams even necessarily getting a hold of him to negotiate another deal? That's just always sort of been the story since he even came out of college, that it was a little bit of a more difficult negotiation than with, let's say, your average player. But we also shouldn't speak in generalities. It's not like every agentless player is hard to negotiate with. And Eric DaCosta just got a deal done with Roquan Smith, who doesn't have an agent.
Aditi, the Lamar Jackson thing, there's a lot about his situation that I find, I guess, irritating. There's a lot of things that irritate me, obviously, but this in particular, because when Lamar first came in the league, Bill Polian famously made the idiotic statement that he was a wide receiver or whatever. I don't know if it was tight end or wide receiver. And it seems like ever since then, anybody that has anything to say about Lamar Jackson that's not he's the greatest quarterback ever is admonished. Like, you can't be critical of him at all. It's absurd to me. Okay? I like watching Lamar Jackson play. He is one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch play. The Ravens are in a tricky spot because since his MVP year, he hasn't been that good. Let's face the reality of it. There's some people that just can't admit that. I don't understand what's going on. It's only him. There's not a single other player in this situation.
I mean, it's very, very polarizing, right? Like, you're either all or nothing on Lamar Jackson. And it's almost crazy. Like if you're in a middle spot like you are, or you sound to be to me, you can call him a great player who hasn't necessarily played as great as he has in the past in recent history, I don't understand why that gets pigeonholed as like, oh my gosh, well then you are this. It's very interesting.
Like,
you're right.
Whenever when other quarterbacks are negotiating with teams, there's not ever this attack on the team as if they're evil here. The Ravens, and I hate the Ravens, but they're being painted as like they're this major slight against Lamar. I wouldn't want to guarantee him more than Deshaun Watson's been guaranteed when he's been hurt the last 2 years and hasn't played that well. I don't want to trade him either because his upside is through the roof and we've seen what he can be at his best. I'm not sure if he can play at that level consistently. And so, honestly, I'm not sure what to do. But I can't blame the Ravens for not wanting to guarantee every last dollar to him. So I don't think they're evil. I think they're in a tricky spot, and they're not sure what to do. It's tough, and they got to make a decision.
And it's not only the Ravens. Look, Russell Wilson got a big, huge, fat contract and didn't get every single penny guaranteed. I mean, that's sort of the way Kyler Murray didn't get every single penny guaranteed. It's not as if the Ravens are the outlier in the business model.
That's
it's
true.
Actually the Browns and Deshaun Watson that are the outlier.
Yes.
And sure, Lamar Jackson is allowed to go chase whatever he possibly can.
Absolutely.
But if that market doesn't exist for a fully guaranteed $230 million contract or a fully guaranteed $250 million contract, I mean,
I wonder.
It's hard. It's hard to sit here. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but I wonder if the reason the Ravens might go with the non-exclusive franchise tag is because they don't think anybody else is guaranteeing him all this money either, and they're going to say to him, look, teams could have signed you. Now, they got to give up 2 first-round picks if the Ravens don't match it. But these teams could, like, if you want to trade for Lamar, you got to give up 2 first-round picks anyway. So, like, these other teams are not going to pay you, so maybe we'll franchise you, and now you'll be more reasonable next year. Or as I'm not saying he's not being reasonable, but as they see it, you'll be more reasonable.
But see, that's what's so interesting too, right? Like if you have an agent, your agent can quietly assess what the market actually is out there. So this could be, the Ravens can say to Lamar until they're blue in the face, you're going to have a difficult time getting another team to give you $250 million. Nobody else is telling him that because he doesn't have an agent that's calling other teams to find out if that actually exists.
And maybe some team will give him that.
The non-exclusive tag is that in theory, the Ravens are letting him see the market.
Yeah,
and see that the market as he envisions it may not actually be materializing. I don't know. I mean, I don't envy Eric DeCosta at all.
No.
And I've said this over and over. I know that you hate the Ravens as a fan, but I think you can even agree with me. The way that they go about their business,
brilliant.
I mean, that's about as classy of an organization as you can get.
Absolutely.
From top down, from ownership to the way that Ozzie Newsome has stayed aboard and worked so well with Eric DeCosta, the way that Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh, I mean, heck, they live in the same neighborhood. The friendships, the loyalty, the allegiance, the way that they treat their players. I remember when Al Villanueva was considering an offer from them, and I think you guys know this, that we're extremely good friends.
Right.
I had said to him, just as much as you think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are player-friendly, the Ravens are too, in a different way. John Harbaugh is a player's coach in a different way than Mike Tomlin is, but no lesser. And it's the truth. I mean, they are a great organization. They run their business the way you'd want a business to be run. I feel terrible that there are people that are painting them, people on the outside, painting them as the bad guys in this. I don't think there's a bad guy.
No.
I just think that there's not a meeting of the minds here, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play this out a little bit. And this isn't what I want to ask you. I do want to get to one other topic with you, but let's play out the non-exclusive tag on Lamar. If a team were to sign him, you're getting him for a hell of a lot less than what the Broncos gave up for Russ and what the Browns gave up trade-wise for Deshaun, and yet it allows Baltimore to recoup 2 number ones for him. It kind of sounds like I think Lamar's played his last snap for Baltimore, me personally, just what I think. But it sounds like the non-exclusive tag is the way that everyone wins on this. What am I not seeing?
I mean, I can't disagree with you, Jason. I'm almost like afraid to publicly say that because of Adam's point that you're suddenly the bad guy.
You are.
I'm not saying that Lamar. Look, Lamar can be the franchise quarterback in Baltimore for the next decade and lead them to 9 Super Bowls. Like, I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility. But to what you're saying, it does seem like a smart play. Because part of me, and I'll quote Mike Tomlin again, you want volunteers, not hostages.
Yeah.
And if Lamar doesn't want to be there, then okay, right? Like, if Lamar doesn't trust that you're trying to do the best that you reasonably can, then I don't know. I'm like worried that Mikey's going to snip this off and put it on social and I'll be attacked.
Yep.
I will not. I promise. I promise.
That's why I'm like cutting off my sentences midstream so that no one gets them, Jason. But I think you raise a very, very good point. And this is part of the fun of being an armchair GM. And again, why I don't actually envy Eric DaCosta, because you do fear. Let's say you do the non-exclusive, and let's say you do say to Lamar, go test the market, go see if that $250 million guaranteed market exists and materializes. But what if Lamar takes that personally, and that sets him in a bad place?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then he ends up coming back to you, and again, all of these, again, I'm not saying this is who Lamar is, but let's say he has a little nick and he's like, well, these guys didn't fully believe in me, so maybe I'll take this weekend off. Again, not saying he's going to do that, not saying that that's his personality, but these are all the permutations that a general manager has to think of when making this move. And I mean, it's fun for us, Jason, to sit here and do that, but that's because he's not on our roster.
That's
in the fall.
absolutely right. And that sort of segues into what I originally wanted to ask you. 4 teams are going after Deshaun last year: Carolina, New Orleans, Cleveland, Atlanta. Those were the 4 finalists. I'm wondering, I mean, 2 of those teams are still looking for a quarterback, and Atlanta and Lamar make a lot of sense, if you ask me. I know that's been out there for a while. But New Orleans lands on Derek Carr. Cleveland has Deshaun. Carolina and Atlanta are still shopping. I don't know that I have a bold statement to make. It's just I'm fascinated to continue to watch those 4 teams as they progress and try and find a quarterback solution if they go to the draft, if they chase Lamar. Where do you think those 2 stand today with Deshaun in Cleveland, Derek in New Orleans? What is the best fit, or I guess who do you think is happiest, and what happens with Carolina and Atlanta as they continue the search?
I mean, well, I'm fascinated to see, I keep using that word, but I am intrigued to see what Carolina does, and I love that staff. I mean, if I'm a quarterback, I would love to go play for Josh McCown and Frank Reich. Done.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh McCown is, and I actually said this to Josh last week, in all my years of covering the NFL, there were 2 players that really, really stood out. Like, this guy's going to be a coach one day. DeMeco Ryans and Josh McCown. And I am so excited that Josh is now in this position and doing it this way, kind of building up. And, you know, we and I talked about it. It doesn't have to take a long time. In 6 years, DeMeco went from an assistant, a defensive assistant, essentially a quality control guy, to a head coach. And that's because of his knowledge of the game, his otherworldly leadership, his ability to connect. I think Josh is very similar in that way. And I think that if you have your ears open, that's a guy you can learn so much from. And I think Frank Reich is just one of the good humans in the game and is always going to put a quarterback in a position to succeed. So I love that pairing. I love the idea of someone going to play for them. We know this. It's what's around you. What's the best group? And as great as you may be, and Derek Carr knows this firsthand because of his brother's experience, right? Like, if you have a crap offensive line, if you don't have any receivers to throw to, if you don't, all of those things play into it. Right now, I think that the Browns are in the best stead because you have Deshaun Watson clearly extremely happy to work with Kevin Stefanski. That seems to be a very, very good, open flow of conversation, collaboration, if you want to call it. We know that Kevin isn't a guy that has an ego about what he calls or runs, that Deshaun, with each passing day, is getting more vocal and saying, this is what I like, I don't like, etc. You love that line and you love that run game. And both of those things, that line and that run game, help set up a quarterback for success. Would you like to see more production from the wide receiver spot as a whole? Sure. But I also think that that's a really good setup. And I mean, it's hard. You know, if Carolina and Atlanta get rookies, how can you say that they're in better shape than Deshaun Watson? So heading into the season, even without knowing who's going to Carolina or Atlanta, I mean, especially since Aaron Rodgers isn't rumored to be going to either spot. Do you guys think he ends up in New Jersey, by the way? Do you think he really ends up the Jet?
God, I don't know where else is there.
He had conversations today.
I hope he ends up with a long walk off a short pier.
Seriously, you're not an Aaron Rodgers person at all, Adam.
No.
I just think he's just such a drama queen. It's so annoying. I mean, he's a great player, or he was. I don't know how good is he.
We share a birthday. P.S. We share a birthday, so there might be something in our sun signs that are the same.
Are you a drama queen too? I don't think of you as a drama queen.
I mean, I tend to not think so.
No,
but
I don't think so.
There may be others who disagree. G's being a little. Gee, I sense your silence.
I said I was going by what your son said. He said, "Listen, he's like, how do you know? That's your mom." Well, I do. That is my mother. I've watched her operate around here. No, I will say this, Aditi. Is DeAndre Hopkins washed up? Because every time they bring his name up, like people's like, I'm cool on him. Is he washed? Can he help the Browns?
I don't think he's going to end up there. I can't tell you that because, again, I think so much has to do with fit, G, right? And I'm not a huge fan of the quarterback play that we saw in Arizona. That doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of Kyler Murray's. That doesn't mean that I don't think something more can be gotten out of Kyler Murray. But I think that the DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson reunion is a very, very, very big long shot. And another thing that's very difficult as someone who is, on the other side of her career, very difficult to acknowledge. But the truth is, it's far easier to get immediate production from a young wide receiver than perhaps other positions. Mm-hmm. So rather than taking a flyer on a guy who you even have questions about whether he's on the backside of his career, if he is or is not washed up, why not chase a young, fresh talent who's got young, fresh legs, who's got something to prove, and who, quite frankly, costs less and counts less against the cap? I wouldn't say that for every position. You guys have heard me say, sometimes you need to pay for that older veteran because of everything else he brings to the ecosystem of the locker room and to the professionalism you've tried to build. I mean, you've heard me say that Jarvis Landry was worth it, even if he couldn't run the same way that he ran 4 years ago. But I think at a position like that, a game-breaking receiver, you might have more luck looking for a young guy.
I think the concern is the last 2 times the Browns have drafted a receiver third round or higher, it's been Anthony Schwartz and what's his name, David Bell. Yeah. So David Bell was a rookie. Maybe he'll turn it around. Schwartz is already shot. You got to cut him. But
I'm not willing to give up on Bell because Bell does indeed have a great catch radius. He's really, really smart. He's got very dependable, reliable hands. Schwartz, we always knew was a flyer, right?
Yeah,
he never had great hands.
No,
never. I mean, he's a sprinter. So, and it's almost like Darius Hayward-Bay. You get really infatuated with the speed. You get so excited. Oh my gosh, this is otherworldly speed that can get behind everyone, which Schwartz can. But as much as you work on catching the ball, I think that there just has to be something innate. An Antonio Brown can catch 100 balls off the jugs machine every day and get better at catching, but that's because of the way that he started.
Right. People get
Anthony
so
Schwartz
enamored.
Can catch 100 balls off the jugs machine every day, but there's only so much better he's going to get.
People get enamored with the speed or the athletic ability. To me, if the guy didn't show it in college, I don't know. Like, we talk about John Ross. We mentioned him yesterday. Bengals drafted him top 10. Everybody's getting all hot and bothered for this Anthony Richardson now. Like, well, where was he in college? Why wasn't he better in college? If he's, I mean, maybe he's going to be great. I don't know. But, Aditi, we were just put under the gun last half hour. Mikey made a new game. It was our version, the game blank, marry, kill.
You could say
FMK.
FMK, you know that game?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so we played a version called Keep, Cut, Trade. And it was a really good, We had like the superstars of Cleveland in different sports. So I'm not going to ask you the ones that Mikey asked, but let me ask you, if you have to choose, okay? Keep, trade, cut. Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, Joel Bitonio. What are you doing?
Keep.
No, you can't.
You can't cut that.
That's not the game. That's not the game.
That's not
You've
it.
got to keep one, trade one, and cut one. That's
What kind of game is this?
A damn good one.
That's what we just had to do
had to
for a
do
half
it.
an hour. We all cut Nick Chubb.
We infuriated all of
We
Cleveland
pissed
for a
off the
half
whole
hour.
audience because we had to cut Nick Chubb to keep Donovan Mitchell
Oh
and
my
Jose
God, he's
Ramirez.
my keep. I keep Nick.
Well, we
I
had
would
it
keep Nick.
different. We had it different with Cavs and Guardians.
Ours was the best Guardians player, the best Cavs player, and Nick Chubb.
Adam's making it all Browns players for you.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
making it
Yeah,
all Brown.
no.
All right, well, give
I
me your
would,
choice. You can do that one, or you can do Meiji and Bull.
Okay,
'Cause
I
I got-
would keep Nick.
You keep
God, this
Nick?
hurts. I'd keep Nick.
Yeah. Wow, that's a bold move.
I'd trade
Bold move.
Myles because I think Myles has greater trade value than Joel
Right.
does.
And you cut
And I'd cut
Antonio.
Joel. Yeah.
That
But I'd cut Joel and I'd hire him back as my assistant O-line coach.
There you go.
So he'd keep everybody in line. So that's what I would do.
All right,
I'd
good.
get the most value for Myles.
Yeah.
That's why I'd trade him. I could retain Joel in a capacity where he brings me so much of what I count on and need from Joel. And I would keep Nick Chubb because that's what I think of Nick Chubb.
Okay.
You should have made her pick between Tomlin and Harbaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Stefanski, Tomlin, Harbaugh. Cut, keep, trade.
Oh.
Wait, so who are the three? Stefanski, Tomlin, and Harbaugh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
That's a good one,
That's
G.
a very good one.
We'll play this game with some
All right.
AFC
Well,
North people
I'd trade
next
Mike
time.
Tomlin because he's the one I'd get the most for. The entire country is enamored of Mike Tomlin. Everybody outside of the city of Pittsburgh thinks Mike Tomlin is the biggest genius that ever lived, and players think they want to play for him. So I'm getting the most in return for Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Trade him, therefore.
Yeah.
I keep John because
Of course, yeah.
that I think he's a top 5 coach. He's won a Super Bowl, and unfortunately, as much as I personally like Kevin, I'd have to cut him.
He could
But
be
John
bring him back
would
as
probably
coordinator.
hire him onto his staff. He could be his quarterbacks.
In fairness, Kevin would cut
Whoever's
Kevin.
quarterback.
Kevin would cut
He
Kevin.
would.
He
If you
would.
give Kevin that question, Kevin would cut
He would
himself.
cut himself.
Yeah.
I think you got to be realistic
Yeah.
about it. That's
But you'd have to sit here, like, part of the whole thing with trade is what can you get in return?
Yep.
What can you net in return? Which was all the way going back to your non-exclusive. If you lose Lamar Jackson, at least you get 2 first-round picks.
Right.
All right, Aditi. Ian Rappaport. No, I'm just.
This one Mikey is definitely putting online.
That would blow up Aditi. So
Hey,
if you want to
we
answer it,
need
we'll
that.
definitely do it.
We need that.
Do you want me to ask you one like that or no? I won't put you on that spot if you don't want me to. No, I didn't think so. All right, seriously, getting back to wide receiver, let's bring it back there. I know you said go with the young guy, and I'm fine with them drafting a guy, but I would like them to bring in a veteran. I think Hopkins is too expensive.
Phone's dead.
You
No use to me.
But I like the idea of Brandon Cooks because he has the experience with Watson like Hopkins. He's a little younger and less expensive. What do you think about Brandon Cooks? And he has the speed element. He may not be as fast as he was, but he has the speed element that the Browns could use. What do you think about that?
I do. I like him. I do. All of this depends on what the price is. Like, if you ask me, where am I spending more money, or where am I committing my attention to first and then seeing what I have left, it's on that defensive front. You need to shore up that defensive front. You need to give Jim Schwartz what he needs. And we saw it. We saw it with the Eagles. We saw it with the Chiefs. Everything starts up front. The teams that build from the line of scrimmage out are the ones that have the most success. And right now, the Browns' defensive line needs a lot of help. Or maybe a lot isn't fair, but see what that takes.
Right.
And then see what you've got left.
But we were saying yesterday, we feel like, the Browns went all in on Watson. They got to be, in a way, salary cap be damned. And they got to fill it can't be a wide receiver or D tackle. You got to fill both.
It's not an either or, but it's who are you spending more money on? Who are you devoting more of the cap to? Who is more of a priority? You got to lock
Okay,
up
yeah,
that
sure.
defensive line first, and then you figure out the wide receiver.
Which is why I don't understand this Jesse Bates thing. They just spent $12 million on his safety. How'd that work out? Why would you go and do that
Yeah.
again? Safety of all positions feels like a spot you
I
could
doubt
fill with
they're
a
doing
third
that.
or fourth round draft pick.
I don't like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know that I'm seeing that happen, although I will tell you this, Jesse Bates is one of my favorite players
He's
in the
awesome.
league.
And he's better
Just
than John
that-
Johnson, but I
Okay,
wouldn't
it's
do it.
great, but I
That
don't.
good of a leader, that good of a guy. I mean, but I love John Johnson too. But Jesse is just a different level. Jesse is one of my favorite in the league.
I just don't know
across
that it's worth.
multiple ways.
when
Not
you
just his play, not just his leadership, not just his humanity, all of it, every which way.
And if the Browns had competent NFL caliber defensive tackles and an edge rusher opposite Miles, I'd say great, go
Yeah,
spend
it
$14
just
million
doesn't
on a
make sense to
safety.
spend
Yeah.
that money there.
But for this defense and where they're at, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
agree.
again, it's
Yeah.
let's see what you could do with your defensive front and then have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because it does, to your point, it does feel a little bit like a luxury. You know, to me, another wide receiver, when you've got Amari Cooper, when you have these young wide receivers that you have no reason to give up on yet, Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Bell, and the availability of young talent out there, I just think that that's a little bit more of a luxury until you shore up that defensive front. That's got to be your
agree.
priority.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And
Aditi,
you
we saw
didn't
yesterday.
part ways with Joe Woods and bring in Jim Schwartz if you didn't feel that way.
Right.
We saw yesterday, Aditi, that Carr got 150 million, Gino got 105. What do you think Daniel Jones ends up getting when this is all resolved? Is he going to get more?
They were
than
going to
that?
ask me what Aditi Kinkhabwala is getting, and I was like, well.
Not enough's the answer to that, Aditi.
Yeah,
Good
I don't
answer.
know. That's a tough one because it really does feel right now like the league has this upper level elite group, and then there is kind of this like under elite group, and the question still remains, can you really actually win with them?
Right.
You know, and we like to think, and I've said this, you know, play great defense, run the ball well, and have a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes. And I think you can win, that you don't need a quarterback who goes out there and wins for you every week.
I think, but it's much hard. I don't agree with you personally right now. I don't think we've discussed this. I don't think you can win that way anymore. I think you could, but not anymore. But-
that's what I was getting to, Adam,
Right,
is
okay,
that
go ahead.
I don't know. I've said that for
Yeah.
a while. I don't know that I really, truly believe that anymore. I think that on any given Sunday, Deshaun Watson can put a team on his shoulders and win a game for you. I think on any given Sunday, Joe Burrow can put a team on his shoulders and win a game for you. I just don't know that Daniel Jones is that person.
No.
But the market is what the market is,
Yeah.
right? So, like, you'd have to think that his pay is somewhere in between there, as you just said. But again, this is where he's better than a rookie. He's better than someone you don't know. He gave you this in year one of Daboll, and how much do you believe that he can give you in year two of Daboll? That's a hard one. And I do think where I was going with that, Adam, is I don't necessarily believe that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe. I think you can get to a certain spot with a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes. I think you can get somewhere. But I think when it comes down to it in the conference championship, in the Super Bowl, you need a guy that can put the team on his back. And you also need, it's not even in those moments, it's just you need that swagger about you. Joe Burrow makes everybody else think that they're going to win every single weekend because of Joe Burrow. Trevor Lawrence, as the season went on, the reason that Trevor Lawrence was able to, staring at that big hole, whatever, I don't even remember, it was 28-0, whatever. That was a growth from Trevor Lawrence over the course of the year. And you need that. You need
They're gonna have Calvin
to
Ridley
feel
now.
like my quarterback can carry me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're
I don't
right.
know that everyone feels that way about Daniel Jones,
And you
but
think about it, like the Niners are the perfect example, right? The Niners,
Yeah.
if you say who's the most talented team in the NFL, not including quarterback, I think most people would say the Niners. I mean, they are loaded all over the
Right.
field, and yet they can never get over the top because they haven't had a good quarterback. And I feel like they're the only team that's got a chance.
elite. They haven't had an elite. I mean, they've
No.
had serviceable, good, like
Right.
nice little story, and it almost makes you wonder: would Purdy have been enough if Purdy hadn't gotten
I
hurt?
doubt
Right?
it.
Like, could he
Yeah.
have been enough right there?
Right.
But Yeah,
we'll
I
never know.
don't, which all goes back to the whole Lamar Jackson and how much is Lamar Jackson worth? Because despite all these other things, he is in that, or he has proven to be, not in the last 2 years, but he has proven to be in that otherworldly level.
Aditi, great stuff as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for, blindsiding me with these crazy games,
Hey, listen,
Mikey.
we got blindsided
That's
by
what
you. You're part of
you
the team.
got.
You're part of the team. You got to deal with it.
You on the cast.
Yep.
Thanks, Aditi. As always, the 12 o'clock lunch hour is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team.
Good conversation there.
Yeah.
The Giants are in a tricky spot.
Yeah.
The Ravens are in a tricky
There's
spot.
no middle class for NFL quarterbacks anymore.
I mean, we saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
It was that's the middle. I don't even know if I call that middle class. Like Geno and Derek Carr, right? Like
I think I mean, I agree with you guys. We've been screaming, you got to have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback. Do you really want to be tied to a bad quarterback for $40 million?
No.
Imagine Cleveland if they sign Baker or Daniel Jones gets this money. Carson Wentz in Philly, like it's an anchor around your
right.
organization.
If Deshaun Watson doesn't get back to being the quarterback he was,
it will be Cleveland. It will be Cleveland.
Yeah.
Now Philly figured it out and won a Super Bowl anyway. They got out of the Carson contract and they got to a Super Bowl. They didn't win. Got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But it's hard, man. It's hard.
I think if you think about it, guys, there's professions where at the top of the food chain, there's only maybe 50 or so of these type people in the world that can do it. So, you're an astronaut, right? You're one of the greatest 50. Now, you may not be Buzz or Neil Armstrong. And
Buzz Lightyear?
Buzz Lightyear either.
Buzz Lightyear.
I might be Buzz Lightyear, but when I go into the negotiating table, I'm like, well, listen, I might not be Buzz Lightyear, but guess what? I'm one of 50. So if I could do it at a competent level, you got to at least give me that.
It's a supply and demand situation,
where you
right?
gonna find one?
You said it before, Jason, when it came to JB. Well, is there a better coach? And you said, there are. Well, the Ravens don't have a better option, certainly.
Right. Not right now.
Even the Giants, Daniel Jones not as good as Lamar, but the Giants don't have a better option.
I have
so what do they do?
And as someone who, my dad's still a big-time Giants fan, I still follow the Giants, grew up rooting for them. I have no idea what I want them to do. I don't have an answer.
I feel like it's a lose-lose situation.
It really is.
Because if you pay him $40 million, you're pot committed, essentially. I know you mentioned the Wentz thing, but the number keeps going up and up.
Yeah.
Although the salary cap does keep going up and up, too. But, you're pot committed on him. You can't make any mistakes around it. Look at, again, the Niners are the example. If any team's going to win a Super Bowl without a great quarterback, it's the Niners. They're run great. They have a great coach. They have great skill position talent. They're great on both sides of the line.
They're lights out defensively.
I mean, they're good everywhere.
Yeah.
But in the end, now, it was a unique situation because Purdy got hurt and they didn't really have a quarterback. But still, I don't think they were going to win the Super Bowl either way. But you never know, I guess. But they haven't been able to get over the top because of quarterback, no matter how good the rest of the team is. And these other teams that are looking for quarterbacks, they're not nearly, the Giants aren't nearly as good as the Niners.
No, and this might tell you everything you need to know. This Steve Becker just texted us, EP Steve, and he's a big-time Eagles fan. As an Eagles fan, I desperately want the Giants to re-sign Jones, please. So if another team in your division's praying you sign a quarterback to a $40 million deal, it's probably not a good thing.
Here's the thing. Even though the alternatives for the Giants are not better, you never know, right? I know in Cleveland it's hard to feel that way because the never works out here. But you brought up the Eagles. Nobody thought Jalen Hurts was going to be this guy.
Other organizations actually are competent.
And it happens.
Can find multiple quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
I would rather, as a Giants fan, I'm going to be honest with you, if I was there and it was Daniel Jones, give me Will Levis.
No.
Listen, Daniel Jones, it took you 5 years to get halfway decent.
What's that? Before you finish, I got to just defend him for 1 sec.
Yeah.
He had absolutely no weapons for 4 years and two of the worst coaches in the history of the NFL.
That's not uncommon.
Nobody got it with.
But he finally got a good coach, and he showed, hey, maybe I'm not.
Or is it that the coach got the? It was like here. I was like Stefanski in 2020 got the most you can get out of Baker, and you don't stick with him because he won one playoff game. You move on because if that's the best, it's not good enough. And
Fair.
I feel like that's the same with Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones to me is of that ilk. He's the Baker.
He's a tier 3 quarterback. You can't win with a tier 3 quarterback, I don't think.
The Ryan Tannehills.
Yeah.
that ain't gonna get it done.
No.
Because no one believes that
You can make the playoffs with that quarterback. You might win a playoff game or two. If the team's perfect around them, maybe you make a deep run. But ultimately, you're going to fall short with a quarterback.
And I
like that.
literally think that if Dable is that good of a coordinator, he can get about that level of play with a young guy.
Now, it's tricky because Daniel Jones has he's a good athlete and whatever, but I don't know. Ultimately, if I were the Giants, and by the way, if I'm the Giants, I'm not signing Saquon Barkley either.
He's gone.
I am done spending money on running backs.
So, who would you rather? Would you rather be the Titans, who go 9-7, 10? Well, now I guess 10-7.
Yeah,
make the playoffs every year, or do you want to be the Giant? Let's say the Giants move on from Daniel Jones. Do you want to be the team that says he's not good enough, we need better, and you run the risk of falling to 3-14, 4-13?
True. If I were the Giants, what I would do is I'd let Saquon walk and I'd franchise Daniel Jones.
I would too.
Because then you overpay him for a year, but you find out maybe he does take another step. Maybe we're wrong. But I want him to prove. It was the same thing with Baker.
Right.
Now it never got to that because he didn't play well enough. But and that's why with him, I feel like, unlike the Lamar situation, Daniel Jones can't be offended if he gets franchise tagged because he's got to be realistic that he hasn't proven enough. Or at least Lamar can say, I want an MVP. They should believe in me.
Someone want to franchise tag me? You go right ahead.
Well,
give me that.
Some players take it as
million.
an insult. Not an insult, but an annoyance because they want a long-term deal. I get it. If I'm the Giants, I think that's the answer. You can't just let him walk because you don't have a better option.
Right.
But I would franchise tag him if I'm the Giants.
It's kind of funny how you look at the NFC East. Because I'll tell you what,
the wind took it.
It almost rolled down the chair into the basket.
The wind took it.
That boy was horrible. Hey, Dak Prescott, I'll tell you what, the lefty almost got it. Dak Prescott, if they don't if you don't franchise somebody, or excuse me, you don't give them a long-term deal, you franchise them, it never works out. I have not seen somebody get franchised and they balled out. As a quarterback.
Well, Kirk Cousins got paid twice off of it.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And Dak is not the same player anymore.
Dak just looks washed.
Yeah.
Dak still has 1.5 ankles. Ever since he got that serious
guy.
injury,
He has no mobility anymore. Anyway, okay. Now let's look at players.
We do have one more topic, yep.
Yeah, let's get to this topic, guys. Yesterday, Mikey McNuggets asked us the question, who is the Browns player that essentially did nothing? That's at least how I took it. Or had a run-of-the-mill or worse year in 2022 that we think could take a leap into respectability or better in 2023, right?
I didn't take it that way.
How'd you take it?
The way he phrased it, but my phone's dead and on the floor, so I can't remember.
I phrased it as who is a candidate to be the Browns' breakout star.
Breakout.
Okay.
All right, breakout star. Okay, fine. So I undersold the question. So,
but real quick, to tell you how it was interpreted differently, you and Jay, and I have Jay's answer, took it in one direction. G and Jason picked the same player and took it a little different direction. So let them start, and then I'll be Jay in this scenario.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't have any answers that I was comfortable with, but I had to pick somebody, so I did. Go ahead.
I was hoping I could find a defensive player, but I couldn't.
No,
I couldn't.
No.
So I was really down to two guys for two completely different reasons. Maybe.
By the way, somebody need to clarify. Sorry, Deshaun Watson was not an eligible.
Watson was not eligible yet.
Besides Watson, go ahead.
I was down to the Davids, David Njoku and David Bell.
Okay.
And I went Njoku, but I think you could make a case for David Bell as being that guy. And you heard Aditi say, I'm not out on David, and I know he doesn't have top end speed, but he throw it anywhere near him, he's going to catch it. But I went with Njoku only because if you look at his numbers from last year, they really weren't. I mean, he had a really good year. I think his second year, and his numbers were very similar to that, 58, 628. And I was expecting more out of him this year, and I think with a full year of Deshaun, I think you'll get it. I think he could flirt with 1,000 yards, 80 catches, 900 yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns. And so that, to me, is a breakout over where he is now. And so I went with him. I thought about David Bell, but it was just a bridge a little bit too far to cross for me.
You went the same thing, Njoku?
Yeah, I went with Njoku just because I really believe they done sold me on it, that they will be throwing the ball. Like last year, we talked about the run game all the time and Washington running Nick Chubb. I literally think this year, Nick Chubb might see 12 to 14 carries a game.
I think that's low. I know that guy was out there the other day. I still think that's low.
Because they don't have Kareem Hunt anymore.
Right.
Well, listen, I was gonna pick Ford as the breakout guy.
Oh, yeah,
because of that. I thought about doing it, but I just didn't know whether or not they would have that many carries available for both.
Right.
But I think Njoku was a safe bet because Njoku is yet to be used in a way that you see a Travis Kelce be used, right?
But do you guys think he's capable? You think he could have a 1,000-yard season?
Yes.
I mean, he had 600-something yards. So, to me, if you guys are saying he's going to have a breakout season, he's got to have 1,000 yards.
I think with Deshaun, I think he can get there. I mean, he had 630 with Jacoby and a half of Deshaun thrown to him. I just don't know. The thing that worries me about Njoku is just the consistency.
Yeah.
Like, I go back to the Saints game. Hit him right here in the end zone. Chance to win the game.
Right.
Drop the
Now,
ball.
overall, last year, he did improve. His hands got better.
He did.
But that was a big drop.
Yeah, and you can't have those.
Yeah.
Question for G and Jason here. With Njoku making that next step, possibly getting 1,000 yards, I think him and Watson will get that connection, but there's also going to be some other receivers in the fold. We assume.
We hope, and we assume.
We hope
Yeah.
that may take away from his
Target share.
rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Athletic tight ends are the ultimate mismatch to me.
That's true.
And that should be the guy when you're in trouble. Where do you look at? That's where you go. You go to 85.
Because I look at linebackers are now being more and more like there's no guys that are playing linebacker from high school all the way through the pros. Nowadays, linebacker coverage is not what it used to be.
That's true.
Guys are running different routes, and those guys, it's a better matchup to throw against a third linebacker on your best tight end versus throwing to a third receiver that's getting locked up by somebody's nickel corner. So I agree. I think that's the best way to go about it, and I think tight ends, they're the biggest weapon, and I think that's why you see Kittle and Kelce continue to kill people because it's just too difficult of a mismatch.
Mike, before I give my answer, should we give Colleague Racing a little shout-out?
Yeah, we'll give another shout-out. They deserve it here. Our 12 o'clock lunch hour, as always, is sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team. Bull, you go first, and I'll wrap us up with Jay.
Okay. I went with one of G's favorite players, Anthony Schwartz. No, I'm kidding.
You know G's other favorite player?
Yeah, Jedrick Wills.
Oh, boy.
Now, to me, I didn't even consider Njoku because in my mind he was above – even barely, but above the line of, I don't know that there's that much more at a Njoku. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. Jedrick Wills has raw talent. He plays for a great coach on a good offensive line. Now, he's had some injuries that he's dealt with, and he's a sloppy player. He has some bad habits. I'm hoping that now 2 years off that injury he had that really screwed him up. When you look at the PFF grades, he was actually a little better than I thought, like watching with the eye, because we're not watching him on every play. I just think his bad plays stand out.
They're really bad.
They're really bad. And I'm hoping that with the great coach, even though he's been there, and another year of experience, and with the contract starting to be a factor, that maybe he's going to start to clean up the sloppiness. That's my hope. And there's potential for him to become just a guy to a good starting left tackle. I think that would be good. I think there's a chance it's going to happen. I'll be honest, I don't feel that confident about it, but there was nobody else I had felt good about of their young guys, unfortunately.
So Jay, when I texted him this, responded, easy answer. So he either took it a different way.
Okay, go ahead. Because I was saying, yesterday, Jay tied himself into a pretzel trying to convince us all that Hot Rod Williams was a role player.
Yes.
Which he was not.
He also tied us up in a
multiple
pretzel trying to
games.
tell us that Pat Mahomes outplayed Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. But that
That's
was
true.
a whole different
Well,
topic.
G was with him on that one, though.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
G was on a ride. But, okay, this was Jay's answer. He said Jerome Ford, which I do
which is
think
the one G
was
was
a
gonna
pretty
say,
good
yeah.
selection
Yeah,
here.
that's good.
Last season, he played very sparingly in the offense, 8 carries, 12 yards. Ironically, one of those rushes went for 9, so he had 7 carries for 3 yards the rest of the time. But he was really positive in the return game, averaged 24.5 yards a kick return. We saw a lot out of him in the preseason, which I think got us excited. He wasn't utilized a ton in the actual offense once the season started to roll around. But I do think with Kareem Hunt gone, with Chubb just continuing to be on a snap count or a carries count, Ford's going to get a chance, and I do think we saw enough in preseason in his sparing time to think he's going to play a decent role in this offense next year.
Yeah, and look, we don't know what they're going to do. They might bring in another veteran running back, a cheap guy to be in the mix. They still have, what's his name, who they drafted 2 years ago.
D'Ernest?
No, D'Ernest is a free agent too. He's going to be gone. Who's the kid they drafted?
Dimitri Felton.
Dimitri Felton. So he's in the mix too. Although I don't think they look at him as part. He was a later pick, also. But yeah, I mean, unless something weird happens, Ford is the most likely guy to be their number 2 back.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And he might end up being their third down pass catching back, which in this offense, if it's as pass centric as we hope it's going to be, could be a decent role. Like, it wouldn't stun me if he ended up with 350 rushing yards and 350 receiving yards, something like that.
So last season, Kareem Hunt, Steve, pull up 19 when you get a sec.
Yeah.
But last season, Kareem Hunt, I'm going to show you his numbers.
Yeah.
Were 468 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
What percentage would you guys put it at that Ford could match that total this year?
1%.
1?
Rushing yards? Like total yards, he can get 468.
I would have said
Okay.
10 to 20%.
Yeah.
So more realistic in the 300,
I would say about
350?
25%.
I mean,
think he's going to get some more carries this year.
I don't think he's going to get more touch. I don't think he's going to get more carries than Kareem Hunt. Now, I do think Kareem Hunt has clearly lost a step, as we've talked about. But I don't know. I mean, to get 500 yards playing with Nick Chubb will not be easy. Especially on an offense that you think is going to throw the ball more.
He had more yards than I thought, I'll be honest. I thought it was about 370.
Yeah, I don't think he's rushing for 470 yards. Like I said, I could see him rushing for 300 and maybe receiving for 300. I would, if he has 600 some odd total yards, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Especially in the air. Like if they can make him, I like if he has fresh legs. And what I want him to do, because I think he is a home run hitter, the plays where you break a run and you score are really important.
Yeah.
You know, people who break long runs and then get tackled and then, you know, they either punt or kick a field goal. We want home run hitting ability. And I think he has it.
Yeah.
I think he catches the ball really well.
What did he run in college? What did he run in the combine? Do you remember?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I
He's
don't
a
remember.
fast guy,
Well,
isn't he?
Ford?
Yeah, he's got some speed.
I'll tell you in a sec, but
Yeah,
Like,
he's fast.
couldn't he play the role that of Darren Sproles?
he ran a
played?
4.44.
Right, like couldn't he be that role like James White played in New England?
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't see him getting a ton of rushing yards. I think Nick Chubb is going to get even a higher percentage of the rushing attempts, but I could see him catching a decent amount of passes.
I guess we're having two separate conversations
Yeah.
because yes, I 300 rushing, 300 receiving would be a great year for him, but
Right.
I don't consider that a breakout.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
That's,
And
that's
so that's where I'm kind
right.
of
Well,
stuck
you
on
guys
this.
were thinking, and I was to some degree too. Like, guy becomes like a legitimate.
Threat in the offense.
Yes.
Like, no one would say Kareem Hunt had a breakout year last year.
No,
If he what is a breakout considered?
Right.
He'd have to have 700 yards or something like that.
Oh yeah.
He'd go from being nothing to being a piece.
Yeah.
It's like
In
the
this-
NBA's most improved award, which is the hardest thing to vote for. You to take a guy who went from being good to great, you take a guy who was nothing to something.
Right.
I guess there is a little variance. I
Who's
got
up
one
for
more
that
name.
this year? Devin Vassell?
I think SGA might be the
Tyrese
front runner
Halliburton?
Right now. Halliburton's on there. I
Yep.
got another name to throw out here.
Yeah.
He didn't
Jalen
play
Brunson?
last year,
Got it.
so he didn't really count. But Jakeem Grant's a guy I do think plays a big role in the Browns next year,
As
He's
a
healthy.
special teamer.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think in the receiving game.
I think he'll. Yeah.
As a
I think he'll be.
receiver?
Yeah. I mean, listen. I don't think he's going to catch 50 passes, but in moments, yeah, I think he can help him in the receiving game.
My hope is that Jakeem Grant and David Bell are the 5th and 6th receivers on the Browns. That they bring in 2 guys with the 4 they have, no Schwartz, none of these other guys,
Yeah.
and they bring in 2 guys, one like a Brandon Cooks, and then one lottery ticket guy who's a guy who hasn't done much, has some potential, or maybe a draft pick and something like that.
I like pairing rookies with a veteran just to
Yeah.
hedge your bet a little bit. I like
There's
that.
got to be another veteran wideout on this team. There has to be, I think.
Oh no, this definitely have to be one.
All right, guys, you got a final take?
I
Anybody got a final take?
actually do.
Yeah. Oh, G. Okay,
all you, G.
You go first.
Yeah, man. So where's my camera at? Where's this? This one right here.
Yeah.
So I got a final take. Sad for the Ohio Bobcat. Sad for the Ohio Bobcat nation. One of my teammates, Brad Young, just got news this morning that he passed away tragically. He was 40 years old. He was in a tree trimming accident in Florida. So he just passed away, only 40. Always a good dude, really good athlete. Played running back at Wellston. I played with him for 4 years. And so condolences go out to his family and everybody at the Bobcat Football Nation. And he'll be missed.
That's sad. So you played with him for 4 years, you said?
Yep.
Was he a guy you kept in touch with or not really?
Well, it's kind of difficult because
you don't keep in touch with everybody.
Yeah, but we always message each other, you know, in Facebook or different things like that. But you know what I'm saying? It's crazy because when you come there, and a lot of people just move off to different parts of the country, whether business takes you there, family takes you there. Yeah. But he was always a dude, really fast, ran like a 4.4, strong dude. And just it's weird that I looked at his age and I'm like, man, you don't think that time is going like that. But, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, that was 20 years ago, So, always remember, your time is borrowed. You don't ever know what it's going to be. So you guys, everybody got to live to the fullest of their capabilities. And I always got to remind myself to always stay in the moment when you got plans and goals and different things. Sometimes you let those plans and goals, strip you of the urgency of being in the moment today. So, when people like that pass away, it gives you a reminder that, you're not granted forever out here. So I do appreciate, the friendship we did have in college, and condolences go to his family.
That's sad. Jason, you got something?
I don't know if it's a final take, but 72 hours from now, we'll be on a boat going to the Bahamas for a weekend cruise.
Nice.
Yeah, we're leaving Friday, and I'll be back. I won't even miss the show. Leaving Friday, back Monday.
Wow.
But like you guys go on cruises, you can book like these excursions.
I've never been on a cruise.
Oh,
I've never been.
You got to go. So you can go, like you go to these ports of entry, and you can like book these excursions. And so one of the places that we're going, it's like the private island the cruise line owns type thing. You can rent a cabana. Guess how much a cabana is at the private for like 8 hours for the day?
So like
$100.
That's probably a reasonable guess.
Yeah. $600.
Maybe 200. Like for the like you talking about the canopy thing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 200.
200. I'd pay what Mikey said. I'd pay 600.
No.
The going rate for a cabana on these cruises.
Yeah.
$3,000.
Who would pay that?
They're sold out.
Besides
They're
Jay,
sold out.
who would pay that?
They're sold out. But I guess like
would
if you
think you would pay that.
if you go with like 4 couples or something, like it can hold like 8. I mean,
Why
maybe.
what are you getting for that price?
Shade.
You get shade.
I thought like cruises were good deals financially.
Well, they are, but I mean, they are like
but then
once
they
you get
stick
on
these excursions.
once you get on the boat, like everything's included. We paid
It's like
for like
beer at a baseball game. Once you're there, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the drinks package, the alcohol package, because everyone in your room has to buy it. You can't just buy one. Like if one buys it, they all got to buy it. $500 for alcohol for a 3-day cruise.
So it's unlimited though, right?
But $500 for 3 days.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to worry about it because I don't drink.
No, we're not
What's
getting
the
it.
food?
We're not
How does the
getting it.
food work on these cruises?
The food is free if you eat in the main dining hall, like in the main dining room.
Yeah.
But the waits can be atrocious.
And then they got restaurants.
it's not
and
a
other
buffet
places.
style?
Well, no, most of it's plated, and you can order whatever you want, but you wait forever. Like you could be at dinner for an hour and a half, 2 hours because everybody's eating. So we paid the upgrade for like the all-you-can-eat steak, like the high-end steak place, all the filet and lobster tail you can eat. So we did do that.
Are you taking the kids?
No,
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say you're a good father.
we did a cruise with the kids a couple years ago.
It was brutal.
And no, it was good. It was good. We had a great time.
You
But
put
we're
them in
just
like a kids club or something?
They did have that, and my parents were actually there, so we took everyone. We took the whole family, and so it was great.
Is this an adult-only cruise?
It is not. It is not. But it's just her and I going. We don't want to be away from them more than a couple of days. We want to be floating in the ocean if there's an emergency. So, but the other thing, so there is like a private little beach club on this island for one of these stops for the day, for passes for the day, $500. And all it is just you're away from the crowd. Is all it is. It is insane. So like the cruise itself is a good deal, but some of these add-ons are totally outrageous.
Mike, I
$3,000 for a cabana.
I got a final thought, but first tell me something.
Yeah, real quick, the 12 o'clock lunch hour sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team.
Folks, proper etiquette when you park in a parking lot. Please, for crying out loud, for the love of God, don't park on the freaking line. Where you got some fancy schmancy, if your car's so fancy that you got to take up 2 spots in the parking garage, then park it somewhere else. Pay for private parking. Have a driver, you idiot. Don't take up 2 spots. And make sure that the person next to you can get in and out of the car, especially if it's somebody fat like me. I'm getting less fat, but I'm still fat. And so can you have some respect? When I park, I always make sure the person next to me can get out of their car. Be respectful. Don't be a jerk.
I hate those massive trucks.
Oh.
Those massive trucks that like you can't. It takes up the entire
I know,
spot.
and most of the parking lots in Cleveland can't handle
Do your mirrors don't they?
Mine tilt in.
Mine
Yeah.
tilt in. Yeah, that's
tilt in the mirrors.
Yeah.
Hey, last thing, if anyone
Yes.
needs advice on a cruise, Director Steve is the cruise maestro. No one loves going on a solo
yeah.
cruise better than Director Steve.
All right, more on
Hook you up.
cruises and drunk LeBron tweets coming up in overtime next.
Right after I pee.
I got